Welcome in, welcome in. We are live. Bestball Bros, episode 2. Dan and Blake here. Dan has returned after one episode, leave of absence.
Yep. Hey,
Luckily,
Jacob killed
otherwise,
it. Jacob did an awesome job. I think he did
yeah.
too good of a job because I think you guys were on for like 4 hours and he wouldn't let you go to bed. I
Nearly
mean,
5 hours. I was just saying, pretty sure there's, in the off season, your imagination runs wild. You can talk about every hypothetical, comparison. There's so much thought experiments you can do.
mhm.
It's unlimited. But when you're in
Yeah,
season, there's actually less to talk about because you're like, all right, let's just wait till Sunday. you know?
right. Yeah, I mean, of course, you can react to like what just happened, you know, like later on Sunday or Monday or whatever. But there's something like final about that. Although I guess you could always like speculate: is this a sign of things to come? Is this more something that's going to continue, or just kind of a blip on the radar? But yeah, in the off season, you can definitely just speculate until the end of time, and it's fun to do. And yeah,
Yeah.
I didn't think we could find anyone else that loved to talk about Dynasty as much as you and I. But yeah, I might have to put Jacob right up there. He can do it with the best of us.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. And that's a pretty. Oh shoot! You just triggered something into my. Yeah. Oh yeah. You're saying you can go into the end of time of just speculating.
Mhm.
Like that is just a good conversation just in general for Dynasty because like how many players just get absolutely like hyped up to the sky
Mhm.
or the moon, and then players get buried because of this, you know, basically the narrative that begins in the offseason, February, or after the draft. And
Mhm.
then it's just like week one happens, and you're like, oh, wait, huh? Like, that guy's
Right.
good? Or like, wait, that
Yeah. Right.
guy needs a week?
Oh,
Or,
dude. Like, yeah, especially when week one hits and early season hits, you realize that all of these things that you were believing and just were accepting as true, it turns out they were just narratives. And we just assumed they were all going to play out a certain way. And it's like, wait a minute. Like, we don't have everything figured out. Like, I
yeah.
just bought into it because everyone was saying the same thing. But
Yeah. That,
yeah, it didn't turn
that's,
out that way.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty much like believe it or not, because I can have pretty strong takes on some players, but my strong takes on players, I at least feel like actually try to counter
Right.
that exact feeling, where
Yeah.
it's like I'm trying to be like, no, like I don't want to project this player for to take a 300% increase,
Mhm. Yeah.
because when I do that, hold on, like it doesn't just go from 0 to 100 oftentimes. And if it does happen, it's generally pretty gradual, or you can kind of see it like take step by step throughout the course of
Yeah.
the season. So those are like my actual strong takes. I felt like this off season, and
Yeah.
honestly, like a lot of the way I've been kind of we're supposed to be doing best ball. We're getting a little bit of
Right.
dice strategy, but bonus for the viewers. A lot of the takes I've been taking this off season are kind of like I don't want to have very strong takes on a lot of players because I know that I'm going to be wrong about like half the stuff.
Right.
We just don't know. Like even the players, the coaching staffs, like they don't know.
Right.
They don't know who's going to
Yeah.
get hurt either. We don't know. So like there's so
Yeah.
much up in the air to begin with that the only thing I can try to counter is the logic of which we're using to like price players, and a lot of this stuff is all just price, uh, takes off of price because I it's so hard to exactly say
Oh,
who's
totally. And I think one of the biggest edges you can get in Dynasty, especially, or even fantasy football in general, is when a certain narrative is built into the price of a player.
yeah
If that narrative is built into the price, and then it turns out that the narrative is wrong, or just looking ahead and thinking, well, what if the narrative is wrong? There can be some free value to be gained there. I mean, I just as like one example that we were talking about semi recently was Devonta Smith. Of course, he's in a run heavy offense. He's not tied to like a great passer per se. Jalen Hurts is fine, but it's not what makes him like a great fantasy asset. But what if it turns out that the Eagles pass more than we're thinking, or like the defense isn't as good as we're thinking, or like Saquon Barkley gets injured and then they're kind of forced to pass more? There are a lot of different scenarios, and I don't think many of those are like built into the price of a player like that. And if one of those scenarios were to happen and all of a sudden the Eagles are passing the ball more and you have this very consolidated target tree where it's mostly just A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith and, little Dallas Goedert sprinkled in, all of a sudden, any of those three pass catchers on the Eagles could way surpass expectations in terms of their production. And then that's just a great free value gain in Dynasty if you bought them, because basically none of that upside was factored into their price.
Yeah, no, that's a great example, especially just like anything Eagles passing game, because we just saw, they threw, I think, 34% of the time in the second half. That's how dominant they were just in these games, running the ball. They didn't need to pass. So, like, that's a good example where, like, these Eagles pass catchers, I've actually been pretty on Goddard, though I don't even know if I really own any, but in more like a best ball thing, just because, there's other tight ends that have been, Goddard's now would be like my Njoku, like, shift from, okay, like, it's Njoku's out, or sorry, Jonnu's out because of the trade.
Right.
It's like, okay, Goddard and, like, Hunter Henry are the next two dudes up. Like,
come on down.
Those are, like, the guys, like, I'd be, like, quote unquote pushing up, or, like, they'd be, like, the next on my list at price to target.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Yeah, because anything, the Eagles, like, again, that was what I was going to mention, though, that's a great example of, like, okay, the narrative on all these guys' prices are, they're just going to run the balls. It's going to be all Saquon, this and that.
Yeah.
Well, there's so many things that can happen. The receivers getting hurt, like Saquon getting hurt. There's so much. Just being in close games, they were not in close games. They were basically just dominating. They went like a 15-game win streak. So there's a lot of stuff, and like that's exactly what I'm trying to look for. Is just look for that regression to the mean, and there whatever it is. Is like what's likely to happen, not what did exactly happen last year. It's kind of looking at trying to gain an understanding of what happened last year and what's likely to happen this year, rather than just projecting the same thing or a drastically different thing.
Yeah, and then the flip side of the coin is when a certain like improvement or a certain narrative is built into the price, and that's what's making their price higher. And then if that narrative doesn't play out, then you're not getting what you paid for.
Yeah.
A perfect example of that would be like C.J. Stroud last year. It's like, he's awesome as a rookie. He's going to be even better second year. Texans signed Diggs, and they got Tank Dell and Nico Collins breaking out, and like they're going to be even better. And like this offense is just going to like take over the league. And then, oh wait, that doesn't happen, and all the receivers get injured, and the offensive line sucks, and then Stroud doesn't, handle the circumstances that great. And it's just, he's a complete bust from any perspective you want to look at it, redraft, dynasty. It's like, oh, wait, we were just expecting all these jumps to happen, and they didn't. And then you're left holding the bag, and you paid this massive price for a guy who, forget even being a difference maker. He wasn't even, like, startable most of last season. So, you really got to be careful about narratives and just reminding yourself, that this thing isn't guaranteed to happen, good or bad.
Yeah.
And is that good or bad narrative built into the price? And depending on whether it is or isn't, you could either get screwed or you could gain some value. So, it's something you really got to remind ourselves, because we can kind of get into this echo chamber where we hear something said so many times, we just accept like, oh, yeah, this is what's going to happen this year. But it might not happen that way. 100%.
Even to me, if I try to like remind myself, like, I am not the one saying that or believing that. It'll just, after, 8 months, it'll just, like, creep in, and you'll be like, okay, like, I don't know, I guess they kind of got a point, what if I'm wrong? And then, sometimes, like, it feels like I'm taking crazy pills on some players, because people are just so far, or the market's just so far in one direction or the other, so, I feel like that's maybe a good thing or a fun thing for anyone watching to like just do is like, who's a guy maybe you're really high on, really low on, just pick a player, maybe on your mind, and be like, and just like remove all the crap and what other people are saying. Is look at them yourself and be like, wait, why is their price, this exact price right now? Look at the players'
Right.
similar price. Like, is that correct? Like, what is being factored in here? Is it going to be the
Mhm.
same result as last year? They're taking a step up, a step down. So, and just see if that leads you to
Yeah.
any different
You
feelings
know,
about.
we've been doing a lot of blind comps lately, and I think the blind comps are a really effective way of kind of um, pulling down these masks of like these narratives that we just sort of accept as like real. Because when you look at like the blind comps between two different players, and it's like, oh man, like these guys look like pretty similar, and then you reveal who the players are, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's this one guy who's like really expensive in Dynasty, and this other guy who's like pretty cheap, and it just kind of reminds you that um, there can be a lot of narrative built into that. There can be a lot of artificial dynasty value, ADV, as we call it, or as people out there call it. We didn't invent that. Um, so yeah, I think the blind comps is kind of an interesting thing, and yeah, I have another. I mean, we were talking about another like off stream. We were talking recently about another blind comp. I won't even give away now because we'll probably like save it for either another stream or maybe a recorded video or something. And yeah, let us know if you guys enjoy that. I think they're pretty interesting, and I think they can definitely reveal a lot. But yeah, you got to be careful with those narratives, especially in the off season.
Yeah, and just to give another example, by the way, of like the Eagles one, this is the one that I've been really struggling with. People have been messaging me about it as well, and we've talked plenty about it. Is like the Packers. I truly believe the Packers pass game is like severely underpriced. The
Yeah.
issue is like Golden and Reed do have different knocks about them. The snap stuff, the college production stuff. There's Tucker Craft where it's like he's really good, and we saw that in our last blind comp. But it's like the pass volume's just not been there. Where it's like, dude, they ran the ball like an unearthly amount of times that is they literally have to pass more. The question is just like
Yeah.
how much more do they pass?
Yeah.
And my question is like there's zero pricing on any of that Packers pass game stuff. That like what if Josh Jacobs gets hurt, by the way? Like and like he's dealt with a lot of injuries in his career. He's just coming off a huge season where these guys get beat up and they tend to come back. So like that's a pass game where I think everything we just talked about kind of like that whole situation is like affecting me because I think it's a really good bet going into the Packers pass game, really
Oh,
into
yeah.
any avenue that you want there. I think you can like talk into Wicks if you like Dobbs, whatever. I think every single player across the board is under. Even Love is underpriced right now in Dynasty
Great.
because
Yeah, I
everyone
mean,
just thinks you're gonna do the same thing.
yeah, for sure. And yeah, what if Wicks is one of those post-hype sleepers that just
Yeah,
randomly like breaks out after like most everyone has like given up on him? I mean, we still know he can get open, he can get separation. So if he can just learn to catch the ball
yeah,
and earn himself a role either through really good practices, really good training camp, or just getting lucky and having like an injury ahead of him to like one of the three starting Packers, and hopefully be Romeo Dobbs because he's the guy we're most anxious to just get out of there and really give Wicks a full chance because we think his upside is a lot greater. But yeah, I'm totally with you there. I mean, I'd love to get a Tucker Craft share at this point. Like, I'm starting to feel like that's a guy I'd really love to have a share of. I have a ton of Jaden Reed shares, and I'm really excited about that. I don't have any Golden, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe I buy a share or two if he
yeah.
starts the season slow, which he probably will. He's a rookie. But and then Jordan Love, I think I have one share if I'm not counting like a second share in a free best ball league that I'm in,
Yeah.
Dynasty. Yeah, but I
Like-
wouldn't mind having like another Love share either. So I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah, like I'd love to have more, but you know what the thing, and that's what I was saying. This whole conversation ties perfectly to this, team for me, is the fact that if these guys were just priced, if they were actually priced higher, if the market had more confidence in them, like I myself would own more of them this offseason. I would have actually been myself more confident. I don't like. There's just something about the market's confidence sometimes where maybe it's not too overboard, but there's like, yeah, we like this player. well, if you put Reed or Kraft or Love higher, like I might actually be higher with them. And the fact is, like, I'm I know I'm higher than the market on these players for their price right now,
Yeah.
but there's something about it that's like, ah man, like, am I in the wrong here? Like, am I
Right.
like
Yeah.
maybe I should maybe I shouldn't, maybe I should try to wait this player to drop in a startup or like just wait on this situation because it's like kind of I don't know. There's something about that this team and all the players. Is these question marks about each kind of piece, and I'm kind of been just playing it cowardly. Like I
Okay.
think
Yeah.
it's kind of like for me where there's like players in startups and it's like the running backs between rounds 5 and 7. It's like, dude, if the market had K9 over Josh Jacobs and over
Right.
Kyron Williams, like, yeah, I believe that, but the market isn't like that, so I'll never draft K9
Right.
before those guys, you know. So it's just like
Oh
funny
yeah.
how the market prices things can like really
Yeah.
make us believe that okay, that's how it has to be. No, like that's not true at all. We get things wrong all the time.
Yeah. I think that has such a huge impact. I know we've had this conversation before, probably a while ago, off stream, about ADP is such a funny thing. Like if these two players that were going rounds apart were just like suddenly switched, and if you just like always knew it that way, you'd probably draft them that
Yep.
way. I mean, I think it has like an enormous impact. And even if you think, okay, well, this one guy's undervalued, this one guy's overvalued, but you'd still you'd want to play the ADP game
Yeah.
and try to okay at least get some share of the guy that's overrated, and then okay maybe have a few more shares of the guy who's undervalued, but it definitely has a huge impact on just how you think of things. And I do think there's kind of this almost like peer pressure to like conform to the consensus opinion in the off season, and that's how these narratives get started that we were just talking about. So yeah, I do think it can be tempting to just be like question yourself and like, am I in the wrong? Am I taking crazy pills here? But no, I think you actually have to lean further into that and just have belief in yourself. And I mean, if you have sound arguments,
Yeah.
don't be afraid to go against the consensus. I think that's where some of the biggest value wins will be had, but you have to have the courage to really lean into it.
Yeah, no, exactly. So like, I think all this actually really applies to best ball, of course,
Mhm.
because one thing I've noticed drafting some of these best ball teams is some of my biggest dynasty fades because they're very expensive. Like expectations are very high on some of these players, rookies, whatnot.
Mhm.
They're actually some of my favorite picks in best ball. Like
Right.
that's the funniest part about it. It's like okay, the best ball market doesn't think these guys are going to do anything this offseason, this dynasty season. And that's why I'm fading them in dynasty, because the dynasty market seems to think, yeah, these guys are really going to do something and be like an instant breakout, whatever, the way they're priced in, right?
Yeah.
And so it leads to me being highly exposed on one end. And by the way, like two names that really have been sticking out has been Luther Burden and Loveland. Like these dudes are super underpriced on DraftKings and a little bit on Underdog, but especially on DraftKings, it's ridiculous.
Right.
Burden's ADP is at like 140. In a
Wow.
wide receiver, avalanche,
That's crazy.
full PPR draft, like what is going on that? That is so mispriced.
And especially since, I mean, not that I'm like the underdog expert or anything, where I mean, we're just kind of getting
It's better than
in
Underdog.
the best ball season here, like the two of us, especially me. I mean, maybe you've done like a few more than me, Blake. But I mean, as I understand, specifically like on underdog, from what I've been hearing, it sounds like the ADP there is like pretty sharp, like
It is.
sharper than ever, even. And especially with receivers and like rookie receivers that have this late season upside that everyone wants to like win these tournaments and contests on underdog. It seems like any wide receiver who's a rookie and has pretty good draft capital and talent and upside to get hot at the end of the season is going like ridiculously high. So with all of that being true, how on earth could Luther Burden be going at like 140? I mean, that's
Yeah.
mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a huge gap, and then it's a full PPR. It's even better for a Luther Burden type.
Right.
Yeah, it makes no sense. DraftKings is far less sharp for ADP. That
Yeah.
I've noticed that 100%. And if some of the
So wait,
tough
the
things
140 was that on DraftKings or underdog?
that's on DraftKings, yeah,
Oh god. Okay, so
where
that
you,
makes more sense.
where it's
Then.
full PPR.
Yeah.
But Burden is still, I think, has like a pretty low ADP on underdog. Maybe it's like 110 or something like that. I
Okay.
don't know.
So it's still lower than it should be, but not quite as bad. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, those are just two where it's like, yeah, Loveland. I've only got like one, and it's a best ball share in like Dynasty. But what's even better about these getting these players in DraftKings and stuff like that is I think in Dynasty, one of the reasons I'm scared of these guys and just in general is if like the full breakout doesn't happen, like how are you even gonna know to start these players? Like they can't even contribute to really your lineup. Just if we're saying they're going through a normal rookie phase, and the full like you must start breakout doesn't happen. You're like playing that guessing game where it's like, hey, are they in my lineup or are they not? Or am I starting Darnell Mooney or whatever it is, right? Or this backup handcuff running back thrust into a role. That's the classic one. It's like, am I throwing, Sincere McCormick in? Or am I like Condre Miller coming in? Or am I like playing this like rookie that hasn't broken out yet? Like those are tough decisions in lineup leagues. Well, guess what? In best ball, you don't even need to like. Well, Luther Burden is amazing in a best ball league. The type of player he is. So, yeah, I mean, ADPs all around. Yeah, I mean, those have been two I've spotted that are just like severely underpriced so far on DraftKings.
Right, because it might be hard to know when those Luther Burden spike weeks are going to come as rookie season because they have so many weapons there.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless he just has some crazy, unexpected, like instant breakout where he's just good every week, or there's like an injury ahead of him, and then the target tree is more consolidated. But outside those two scenarios, like it's probably going to be hard to know when to start him, and or unless maybe he gets like hot at the end of the season, and then you just start like playing him every week. But yeah, it seems like Luther Burden as a rookie should be like made for best ball.
Exactly, yeah. So and even Loveland and guys like that. So yeah,
sure.
I mean, one fun thing that I wouldn't say I've used it too much, but maybe just kind of by having a better understanding how best ball rankings go and still kind of seeing the boards here and there. Like one thing I think that's really effective if you want to do it for when you're doing dynasty startups is like, okay, underdog is like the best ADP you could possibly get. It's not perfect, but and of course look at like in position rankings. Like don't look at receivers versus running backs per se, because number one is redraft format, not dynasty, and number two, receivers are like so pushed up or like running backs are coming down, right? But if you see that like this receiver is, underdog receiver 50 and their dynasty ADP is wide receiver 20, like honestly being a rookie doesn't even excuse that. Like that is pretty bad. Like that there's something's mispriced there, and then the counterpoint is like, okay, if this guy's underdog receiver 30 and he's dynasty receiver 55, like he should not be dynasty receiver 55.
Exactly.
So or whatever, might be higher.
Yeah, that's just an easy way to see who's underpriced in dynasty. Like if they're more expensive on underdog than they are in dynasty, then that's someone you probably want to invest more in, get more shares of in dynasty, because they're at least the market's expecting them to have a good season, and if that's true, they should probably cost more in dynasty. So yeah, I love looking at that type of discrepancy, and I definitely have seen people do that on other YouTube channels, and you just kind of see where's that biggest discrepancy, and then those are probably good buys in dynasty.
Yeah. Now, before someone actually does that, good to point out, like there are some factors in that I'll at least quickly list, so you can, if you're gonna like take that strategy at all, like not to just like blindly go do it, because there are players, and like this is legitimate. A player like Jamison Williams is extremely effective in best ball because you just don't eat the games where he possibly gets the 0 or the 2-catch game, and you're only gathering those big weeks, right? And here's the thing, he's in that Lions offense playing against the Vikings in week 17. All that has to do with like his underdog ADP is going to be, it's just naturally going to be inflated, and for a good reason, because there's all these little factors. You can stack them with the Lions offense off, and the week 17 stuff, really good playoff schedule. That is not priced in dynasty, and really shouldn't be, like the fact that they're playing the Vikings week 17.
Yeah, and of course you alluded to the stacks. That's going to push up certain players in dynasty where, like, okay, Khalil Shakir, he's probably getting pushed up an underdog because the Josh Allen manager wants to get a stack with the number one target on the Bills, at least potentially. And yeah, of course, wide receivers are pushed up a little in general on underdogs. So you have to factor that in. So yeah, you definitely have to look at this with some context. And of course, we can't ignore the fact that age does matter in Dynasty.
Yeah.
And the younger you are, the more insulated your value is going to be. So we can't just like throw that out the window. But it's just something to generally look at to help you identify some potential values in Dynasty.
Yeah, exactly. And use your brain basically when
exactly. Yeah. Just don't do anything like blindly without like any logic or common sense or whatever.
Yeah. So let's get into. Oh yeah, I gotta take the overlay off into the drafts, or draft, and probably just do one today. What do you want to draft on DraftKings? They got both available right now.
Yeah, let's do DraftKings. I mean, might as well just like take advantage of the larger number of value inefficiencies or market inefficiencies that are on DraftKings compared to underdogs. So yeah, why not take advantage of it? I mean, I'm sure we'll mix it up at some point because I don't know, is underdog more popular? I mean, that's the one I seem to hear about more.
I don't think it is more popular because DraftKings is just like a far bigger sports book. That's why DraftKings ADP is bad, from my understanding.
Right, so DraftKings is probably more popular, but an underdog is more of like a hardcore kind of demographic. But yeah, again, like you say, that's exactly why the DraftKings has more of those market inefficiencies. So
yeah, exactly. So we'll
mix in underdog at some point. We'll be doing a number more of these best ball live streams throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, I was actually in the car because I went up to the lake for the weekend, had a long weekend, and I'm so sorry. I was looking at the contest details, $50.50. I think that must be like 50. I don't even know. Oh, maybe that's like if you win the league or something. I don't know. I was so confused about that, but it says 200K huddle. Okay, never mind. Because I'm not familiar with these DraftKings like tournaments or whatever. But we won't worry about it. We'll just draft the team. I draft a couple on the underdog because like for mobile, well, I can't even like draft on DraftKings on mobile. It makes no sense. So I did like a couple mobile ones. If I'm doing that, I'll do a like underdog. But if I'm like sitting here, or I think my iPad actually does do DraftKings. It's so confusing. DraftKings just like doesn't work half the time for me.
Okay.
No idea why that is.
But it's better if you're doing it on your computer.
Yeah, it does. I think work on iPad now, but like my phone, it just says like I can't draft where I am. It makes no sense.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, so I naturally I've only done honestly I've done easily under like 20 drafts this off season, so not a lot, but this is I've been getting the itch now. This is like the moment to all the dynasty stuff is done. Much as we get in these drafts.
Dynasty season is done, I guess. So yeah, I mean we're fully past like rookie draft season, and it kind of feels like then we kind of entered that like startup draft season. It kind of feels like, at least for us, that's kind of wrapped up now. And yeah, I think we're in best ball season now, and then we'll hit redraft season, and then the actual NFL season. So yeah, just kind of going through the different seasons of football here.
Yeah, no, exactly. By the way, let's leave this one because I don't know what's going on here. Like this is how do you even leave one?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, we've got 3 people watching right now. Doing the stream a little later than usual, so hopefully we get kind of our usual suspects rolling in here at some point here. But yeah, thank you everyone for joining us who's watching right now. Hope you had a good Independence Day weekend. If you live in America, if you celebrate Independence Day. So I guess they. I don't know. Does Canada have like an Independence Day or a version of that, or like? Yeah, I mean, was there a day where like you guys just celebrate Canada? Like I don't even like.
Yeah, dude.
Know much about that.
We beat you guys to it. We were on July 1st.
July 1st. Okay.
Yeah. That's Canada Day.
Yeah. Apparently, I don't know my Canadian history here, so. Yeah, you gotta yeah catch me up here, but yeah, is that like a pretty big deal up there? Like, have you guys? I mean, do you guys have like fireworks or like what's the deal?
It's pretty much just July 4th. It's pretty independent. It's literally just like carbon copy of what anything you guys would do
Okay. Yeah,
is
yeah.
is what we would do. Except we probably don't lose as many fingers off fireworks like the
Oh
Jason
God.
Pierre-Paul. Um, you know,
That's right. Oh man.
a little smarter up here.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, here we go. Yeah, we were in some weird contest. I'll be back in just one moment here, but now we're actually in one that's gonna fill.
Okay. But yeah, if you're in the live chat, yeah, let me know if you did anything fun for Independence Day. I had some family visit me here up north in northern Michigan. It was basically like my parents, my siblings, my two nieces and nephew, and we all stayed at a Great Wolf Lodge. It was my first experience there. So that's the hotel with the big indoor water park. It's pretty fun. They got some pretty cool water slides, lazy river, bunch of different fun things there. So we had a good time. So yeah, it was good seeing the family, and my parents and I snuck away to see some fireworks on the bay, Grand Traverse Bay here. Great fireworks show. I took some photos. Yeah, I do photojournalism, so we'll see if any get published. But yeah, it was a nice Independence Day weekend.
Oh man, I missed the. You were just
Oh
saying
yeah.
everything you were doing.
Basically, I was just saying, yeah, Great Wolf Lodge was a lot of fun. Like, they got some really sick water slides. Feeling like a kid again. They got a lazy river, and then yeah, so it was just a lot of fun. I mean, my nieces and nephew just absolutely loved it, of course, and got to see some fireworks on the bay. Great fireworks show. Took some photos. May get some published. We'll see. But yeah, really really fun weekend though.
Nice, yeah. Oh, I just saw Jacob, by the way, message driving back from LA. Thanks for keeping him company. Also, not sure what's going on with this draft right now. By the way, it's like saying we're on the
Okay.
clock, but we're not. I'm just queuing players to make sure we'll
Okay.
start with
Oh
Chase and
yeah.
Jefferson, I guess.
Oh, that's right. Because remember last time it wasn't showing us like the timer, so yeah, we got to be
Yeah,
careful.
yeah. No idea what's going on, but I'll keep refreshing it just in case. Oh, there we go. Okay, do you want to start with Jefferson?
Yeah,
This one.
screen share when you get a chance because
Oh,
I'm all I see is you and our faces basically
oh
right
yeah,
now.
my bad. Forgot about
Yeah,
that. There we go. Um, yeah. Okay, there
yeah.
we
I
go.
mean, not knowing the other options, Justin Jefferson is never a bad start to any fantasy draft. So I'm good with
Absolutely.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, Jacob was, let us know safely. Don't get pulled over for texting
Mhm.
and driving. But let us know what you were doing on the weekend there. I was, up the lake, and it was my first time getting up there because I've been working 6 days a week, so I was happy to get up there.
Oh yeah.
Did some paddleboarding and random stuff, and then
Mhm.
also was getting golfing in on there.
Oh,
So
nice.
went on today and yesterday.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, I went golfing over Father's Day weekend. I went downstate to visit my parents, and yeah, went golfing for probably like the first time in like at least like 2 years,
Yeah,
maybe even like three. But yeah, did decent. I mean, I'm not a great golfer, far from it, but yeah, I had fun with that. But yeah, who did you go golfing with? I mean, were you with friends or was it just like you and your girlfriend?
no, it was actually just me and my parents this time,
Oh, okay.
and my dad, well, he had surgery in February, so he actually played his first round Friday
Oh, okay.
since, and then we go Saturday, and then I make him go out Sunday even though he's sore.
Yeah.
But yeah, we had actually never played the course because it's like, we're basically where like our cabin is. It's kind of this like cool little community. There's a bunch of
Mm.
other ones that are nearby, but this one has like a golf course, these stores, and all these different beaches there. So like,
Oh, cool.
it's got this like 9-hole course. So was playing it for the
Mm.
first time. It's pretty fun. I'm really not good at golfing, but I've also kind of just, I would even just say like this year I've basically gotten back into it, other than playing my random couple rounds here and there with friends.
Yeah.
But I used to be pretty good when I was like 9 or 10, and I
Oh,
would
okay.
really be like hard myself, pretty competitive. So like I basically quit curling and golf
Mhm.
because I just like was pretty frustrated. Like I just was like too hard on myself. So I was like, I'm never golfing again. I'm never
Uh,
curling again. And both I've eventually come around to
right.
playing again now that I'm not 10 and mad at myself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I mean, that's funny because like my nephew is really competitive. He's 6 years old, and he just always wants to do well at everything. And so we played. Well, I actually when I was saying how I just went golfing recently, I went with my dad and my nephew.
yeah,
He was pretty good then, but we played putt putt at Great Wolf Lodge, and yeah, he was getting a little frustrated. So yeah,
okay.
I know what that's like.
Yeah. It would just mostly, like just be myself. Well, curling one time, as the kids would call it now, I crashed out because it's so funny because I was so quiet and like would never say it, but I just like crashed out, like not on any of my teammates, just like in general, just on myself pretty much, because I couldn't figure out how to win this game. We were playing like a team that had like one of them had like a bicycle helmet as like while they're curling. Which no one does. Like it's just like, okay, I should not be losing to someone with a bicycle helmet on. And they were also like joking in the middle of the game that like, oh, you guys are destroying us because we were, and somehow like it was just kind of like out of my control, but I couldn't handle it. But we're on the clock here, so
Okay.
what do we like here? We
I
got
mean, of course, I
Rasheed.
love Rasheed Rice. I mean, gosh, I mean, Bucky Irving doesn't look bad
Yeah,
either.
Bucky would be RB1 for me. Rasheed T. Yeah. What do you like here?
Want to go with a
Let's
running back?
Yeah, let's go Bucky then. I
Yeah.
don't think I want. I don't know. Do you have anything about JT that you like, or it's full PPR?
Yeah, I mean, JT, you gotta ding him a little bit if it's full PPR. So I think I'm more confident in Bucky catching passes. So I think I'd give him the edge there, and probably just less durability, injury concerns.
Yeah. Although I actually think injury concerns with Bucky are being overlooked right now because remember really how banged up he was when
Mm.
he actually missed a game because of how beat up he was. Like when he actually started getting the workload on. Oh, we're back up.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, I mean, he's not a super big guy. I mean, maybe I'll look up
Yeah.
and right now just remind myself is.
What we're up here again, by the way. What do we
Oh
like?
yeah,
T Higgins, Garrett Wilson, Jonathan Taylor, Chase Brown.
I think T. Higgins sounds pretty good in a best ball league. That's the name that sticks out to me. I mean, I do love Garrett Wilson. I mean, Chase Brown's fun as well. So I mean, I wouldn't be mad with either of those selections.
Let's go.
Um,
Let's go T then. Sounds like
yeah,
yeah. I've been clicking a
yeah,
lot of Garrett Wilson on
yeah. Because
this.
I don't know if I wanted to like quite double tap running back there. I mean, I guess we should maybe talk a little bit about. When I
Yeah,
think like best ball, I'm so used to underdog and like the receivers getting pushed up. So it was kind of weird to even say Bucky, but I'm trying to account for the fact that I'm assuming running backs are going to be a little more popular on here, even
yeah,
though it's full PPR compared to half PPR. So you'd think the opposite would be true.
yeah,
But because running backs are pushed up more, and I'm assuming we probably don't want to fall behind too much. At the same time, I don't know if it's to quite the degree where I want to double tap running back there. So I kind of like that we went one running back, one receiver there on that kind of turn.
yeah. I mean, like it's kind of hard to go RB and when you're in the early slots because I just don't want to take running backs personally over like Jefferson and Chase basically in a
Yeah.
full PPR especially.
Right, right.
But of course, like I'm not gonna draft everything the same. I'm kind of waiting to get in the slot where okay, Gibbs is the highest ADP, perfect. Now it's the time to take Gibbs. Um, but you really, from what I've noticed, you need to take two running backs on this platform. Honestly, before round 7, if not, you might be able to squeak like a Pollard out
Yeah.
closer in like the early round 8s. But like all the starters are just gone, or any of the good like half decent starters are gone by like round 8. And
Yeah.
then basically it's like Travis Etienne's your best bet at getting a starter.
Yeah. I
You
mean, that
know,
doesn't feel great, even though I kind of like ETN a little bit.
he's
Um,
he's reasonable on this like for ADP, but like still, yeah. I mean, it's like that's how I patched up my last draft on DraftKings was getting ETN at like pick 100. Because you need to get running backs. You two at least early to feel any good at all.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, and it's not like you can make trades later if you don't like your roster construction. I mean, what you draft is final, so you really have to take a different mindset than you would if you were in like a dynasty startup or something like that, where and that type of format of fantasy football. Of course, I'm just going to be taking the best player available. My general philosophy is draft for value, trade for need. But here, you really can't do that. So you really got to change your brain and the way you're thinking.
Look at some of these ADPs, by the way. These are crazy. I think I actually took Javonte like against my will on one. Like it was the last thing I wanted to do. But like I needed a back, and it was just like I was panicking. There was like no time. I was lost connection, and I came back. I'm like, oh god, like I guess I'll take Javonte.
That feels really gross. I mean, I think I'd rather have like a Ramondre Stevenson or like J.K. Dobbins even over Javonte Williams personally.
Yeah, well, I was gonna point them out too. It's just terrible. Like, how is he 170? Just in general, like look at these 117 ADP.
Yeah,
way too high for J.K. Dobbins in my opinion. Though I guess if you want to play the anti-Harvey thing, sure, his ceiling.
But I'm sorry, by way too high, you mean they're getting drafted too early?
Too early. So like 117 is round. Okay, that's round like 10, for example.
Okay, right.
Let's just take a look at 117. Okay, we have Tyler Warren, David Njoku, Tucker Kraft at tight end.
Yeah.
We have a receiver even. I mean, here's some names going in that same area. Okay, Bateman's not good, and Coleman, but, not too much earlier. Higgins, Shaheed, Harris, like some rookies. Burden's like 23 picks after. The quarterbacks, you're looking really good around 117, so, like, in my opinion, what a disgusting, like, pick to go, like, I'll take J.K. Dobbins at. Like, don't those other names sound so much better? Tucker Kraft and all.
I mean, some of them do. I mean, Tucker Kraft sounds better. Yeah, I mean, those tight ends sounded a little better for sure. Maybe even the QBs. I mean, of course, I have to get my brain into the fact that it's not super flex, but I mean, I don't think it's quite as bad as maybe you're saying it is. But I hear you. I think there are probably some better choices there at other positions. I don't think it's like too awful. We're on the clock.
We're about to be. Yeah, we're on the clock now. My initial reaction is Kittle and JMO here. Though you could sway me somewhere else, but JMO's perfect because we have Jefferson.
Yeah. The Lions bring back, right? Week 17.
Yeah. It's even if we don't think he's like the best, or if someone doesn't like, we kind of just got to play the route if we want to win the contest where you need JMO and you need.
Oh, dude! I mean, like you don't even have to make that argument. I just think JMO's awesome. You know what I mean? Like I don't even need the bring back, but that's a nice bonus. So I love picking JMO there.
Yeah, I've actually been clicking him quite a bit because this is the format I want him in, and he's in that Minnesota.
Oh, he's made for best ball, and I mean you already have the Lions offensive coordinator talking him up, saying he's going to have a huge year, and you can dismiss that as coach speak if you want, but there was a lot of positive talk from the coaches last year about how it's going to be a big year for JMO. And, I mean, he was worth pretty little in Dynasty. People had, like, given up on him. And while early in the offseason I had kind of given up on him too, the more I thought about it and the more I started hearing these quotes about him, I really started buying in. And, of course, I had him in my in our bold predictions video where I predicted him to have 1,000 yards. That turned out to be the case. That was felt good to nail that call. And especially as a Lions fan, it was just good to see as well. But I love JMO. I'm not even sure if we've seen the best from him yet.
Yeah. I mean, actually, he's one where I think by the time we had done that bold predictions, I was like, yeah. I mean, everything I've been hearing sounds about right to me. Still didn't buy any for Dynasty. I think at that point though, it was like he had already risen.
His price was I think it was starting to rise where the people who they had been willing to sell him, they were kind of like, maybe I gotta think twice a little bit here, you know.
But by the time that had come around, it because we did that video pretty, right before the season basically, or like a week or two before. Yeah. I remember his price went from like early third, like you might get a second for him, to like, yeah, you need like a second plus, you
Yeah.
know, in that range, kind of before the
Where,
season.
where was he going an underdog by like let's just say like late August? Do you remember?
Yeah, I think
I
I
know.
do because he was right by. He ended up going by like Addison, who the reason he was going by Addison was because Addison went down.
Okay, right.
In fact, he might have even been going ahead of Addison because Addison got
Mm,
injured. There was the
yeah.
offseason stuff, but there was this like Addison and like Jaden
There was a lot.
Reed
There
area.
was a lot of Addison hate at the time. I feel like.
Yeah, exactly. That's how like Addison coming off the really good season kind of got like merged with him. So like his
Yeah.
prices did really come up in like
Yeah.
underdog
August.
in
Yeah.
August.
But I
So
bet earlier in the off
oh,
season,
he
like
was
there was some
free.
great values on JMO. Yeah.
Yeah, though the one issue though is he was in a really good week, like for underdog wise,
Uh,
really good playoff schedule, like really good. Vikings,
right.
Niners, and 16 and
Yeah.
17.
Yeah.
Part of a really good offense, really stackable,
Yeah.
and
Right.
bring. So it was just like he really never was like a massive discount. I would,
Right.
from what I recollect, but it's because he's also built for best ball, so everyone knows
Yeah.
that, and it's like so
Exactly.
you weren't
Yeah.
really getting a huge one, but he would have definitely,
Yeah.
regardless, paid off wherever you picked him.
By the way, I looked it up on Sleeper. Bucky Irving is listed as 5'10", 195 pounds. So that is a reminder. Like
Yeah.
I don't really like think of him as like a small back. I don't know. Like it's weird. Like maybe it's just because he had such a good rookie season. I just kind of had in my brain that his size is a non-issue, but
Yeah,
that's a reminder that
he
he's not a super big guy.
Bucky's been really a guy when I was talking about the narrative stuff. The narrative really favors Bucky. Now, I think it's warranted. I was pretty skeptical of just how high people were on him at first,
Mhm.
but I do think it's been justified. The one thing is like I don't think those injury concerns have been baked in at all because it was like multiple games that he was dealing with it, and those were just so happened to be the first games where he really took on those big workloads. So you know, yeah, it could be like just a small sample thing.
Mhm.
He gets the injuries, but to rack up, you know, he was icing up. His back was all sore from carrying the team one week, and then I think he missed the next week. So it's like,
Okay.
yeah, is that going to be a trend? Are they going to use Rashad White and Sean Tucker more than 2 carries a game like they were down the stretch?
Mhm. We're on the clock.
Yeah, on the clock. We
Yeah, I mean Flowers,
ooh,
Jennings, Montgomery, Olave all look pretty good.
what? Ooh, yeah. What do you think? I mean, we could just take a Flowers to take a Flowers, and then I was thinking Monty
Yeah,
to come down to because we'll just play this Lions Vikings game,
yeah,
right?
yeah. I like that. Yeah, I
We'll
let's
have a
lean into
couple.
the Lions. And Flowers is just one of those guys that I think is always going to be a little underrated. Like, how do we know that he's not going to have a top 12 season at some point, like when we least expect it? I mean, could it be this year, next year?
And all you really care about too is like, can he get a top 12? Oh, here we go. Oh shoot. Oh wait, no, Monty is there. Okay, let's take him.
Yeah.
Yeah, can he get a top 12 down the stretch too in here because
Sure, just yeah, a stretch of games
right?
where he's like suddenly gets hot or whatever. He's obviously in a great offense. And could that be a situation like the Eagles that like we were talking about earlier with Devonta Smith or could also apply to AJ Brown or Dallas Goedert, where what if they have to pass the ball more than we're expecting? Or what if there's some
Yeah.
injury where now we're getting more targets funneled at Zay Flowers? Or what if he just reaches like his peak prime where he's just suddenly one of the better or best receivers in the NFL for a short period of time. I mean, you just
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's just undoubtedly. I don't know. He feels actually just like a better pick in this best ball, which is funny because you don't really associate him with these high ceiling games. But he is one of those players that, in a full PPR format, can
Yeah,
basically feel like he can make your lineup every single week. He still
yeah,
gets these relative, 22-point games, whatever it is.
yeah.
You're getting bonuses. The one thing with him in like Dynasty,
I
other
was just gonna say
formats,
you can avoid those bad weeks that just kind of come out of nowhere. So I think he is well suited to best ball in that sense.
yeah, because you can build a lineup around him where you can have a guy like T. Higgins and JMO. Like, look at this. Like, I think it's the kind of the receivers we have is like, hey, obviously Jefferson, but T and JMO, like, these guys can be pretty volatile and or hurt
Yeah,
or whatever it is. And it's like, yeah, you do need a Zay Flowers to kind of hold that
yeah,
room down. So I think he fits pretty perfectly just as far as what we have so far.
Because he's not going to get a lot of like 30, 40-point weeks, but he can definitely give you a nice, good handful of 20-plus point weeks. So I think he'll help fill in those gaps that
Higgins,
Damo give you.
Yeah, it's like we don't need him to get 30, 40 points each week because that's what the other guys can do. But you know what? The interesting thing about Zay Flowers that I have a trouble getting with, because his metrics are amazing, to be quite honest, like his per route stuff.
Yeah.
But this is where I wanted to ask Jacob, and we still have, through 7 hours of live stream, I've still forgot to even touch on this, our whole point of getting on, which we were laughing about last time.
Yeah.
Was like, when do these metrics, like, when do we just, like, realize that a player might be actually, like, closer to their ceiling than not, when they're already so efficient through everything that they can control. And one, for me, is like the Ravens, and this goes to Shakir too. I think it's funny because a lot of people have been saying down tier this offseason from Zay Flowers to Shakir, and I'm like, for what you could reasonably do that to in Dynasty, I'll just like say I just honestly, like, I actually just disagree with that, like, to my opinion, because I think Zay Flowers is a far better player, and we're losing sight of that. And than Shakir. But here's both those players. What's funny is, well, guess what? Both these guys had MVP level quarterbacks in record scoring touchdowns wise offenses. The Bills literally broke their franchise record. Were insanely hot on I'm not even trying to talk about Shakir, but the Ravens, they threw for 40 touchdowns. And Zay Flowers was like wide receiver, 20-something with really efficient metrics. It's like, what does he need to do to take that step to top 12? Like, he even had good stretches of just kind of, accumulating catches and getting a touchdown here and there. But, like, I'm having a hard time. I think the Derrick Henry injury is the only way, like, I could see that happening. And even then, they didn't even have Derrick Henry his rookie season. And it was still kind of the same outcome. I don't know.
I disagree. I mean, I certainly think a Derrick Henry injury would help Zay Flowers. But also, I think it's also just kind of him, Zay Flowers earning the opportunity in that offense, like earning the offensive coordinator, making him more of a priority, giving him more touches, maybe giving him some more deep shots, which I think he doesn't get enough of. I think at some point a player just like earns that. And also, so many other things can change. I mean, what if the offensive coordinator changes, and then you get someone in there that makes Flowers more a priority, or passes the ball more, or realizes that, like, hey, like, we got this awesome receiver who's not being utilized enough, or isn't being utilized in the right way. We're not taking full advantage of his talent, because I really do think that's the case with Flowers. Yeah,
we'll resume that. Do you want to take a Pearsall to kind of go with Kittle, and then we'll take like a Green Bay receiver maybe?
Sure. Yeah, I love Pearsall. I mean, of course, we love Jaden Reed. I mean, he's looking tempting as well.
Let's see what happens, because we can take a Green Bay. We can let him pick our Green Bay receiver. If he doesn't, then we could go ahead and take Bo Nix or something, and then get our first quarterback.
Okay. Yeah. But yeah, this is just one quarterback. There's no super flex, correct?
No super flex, just one quarterback. Yeah. Okay. Right. Golden is there, and Reed.
And Reed.
Yeah.
So, which one do you prefer?
That I don't know.
I'd go with Reed. I mean, I just think you're more likely to get those spike weeks early in the season, whereas with Golden, you gotta wait for him to develop and go through his like rookie struggle. So I'd prefer Jaden Reed, but if you want to play like an ADP game, that I guess we could go with Golden, but I think Reed's
they're the same. Better. They're the same ADP. We'll take Reed. Oh God! Oh my goodness!
Is that the wrong one?
No. I clicked Reed, but because we can't see the timer. Like literally the second I don't know if you could hear it through my mic. No. The second I clicked it, it chose.
Okay. Well, it's not the end of the world. I mean.
Yeah. What I was gonna say is I've been facing this decision a couple times, and I was like gonna be happy to take Reed because it's just a time to go the other route. But I had been clicking Golden. Okay. Well, because I think Reed is a better bet at maybe that early season stuff, though they've been saying Golden has that that whatever week 1 he's going to be playing in the 2 wide receiver set stuff. But I was just thinking that, like, okay, Golden is, like, the mystery box guy.
Right.
And I was thinking a little bit more of the Lions, too, of, like, okay, maybe a receiver room like this where we don't even have a rookie yet. Really, on this team, I don't think we have a rookie. So it's like, okay, we're not relying on Golden at all early season anyways. So, we try to bring him into the playoffs and hope no other Goldens are there. And then hope Golden's the dude to own or whatever.
Yeah, I'd say.
So, I mean, it's not. It's really. That's the only reason I've been justifying it. I don't really have a take on who's better than who because I don't know. I have no idea.
I think we could. At the same time, like, I understand your logic, and I don't think it's like that huge of a deal. But I think we could fall in this trap where we just assume that the unknown has more upside. And I see how in, like, a theoretical way, I guess they do, just because we haven't seen him be on an NFL field yet. But we've seen Jayden Reed be good at football. We've seen him put up pretty big spike weeks. And so it's possible Jayden Reed is just giving you a really nice upside all season long, whereas with Golden, maybe it only comes in, like, the second half of the season. But that doesn't mean it's going to be a greater upside, though. So I don't know.
It's
weird to kind of, like, talk about these hypotheticals, and especially when one player hasn't even, like, played a
not played exactly. That's what's funny, because here's the other thing is, like, there's almost if you can, like, these rookies, and what's good about these rookies, especially if you're bringing them into really big contests like Best Ball Mania and stuff, is like you kind of want to take the guy that you think is not going to produce week 1 if you can build a team around them, and just meaning that, like, Mike Evans, what was that year he did really bad? Like, I think it was 2022. Like, Mike Evans, no one brought him into the finals. Had someone brought him into the finals, they were a millionaire.
Right.
So, like, it is kind of like that, a million IQ thing.
Yeah, I see.
But it's just more of like, if Jayden Reed smashes week 1, it's fine. Like that's what you want. You want him to smash. But I think what's interesting is it's like, okay, maybe if you've already taken some rookies, maybe it's better to pick Jayden Reed.
I can see that.
That's kind of my understanding of.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's just weird to think about. It's like, okay, I'm going to take this player because he's going to be worse early on. It's just such a weird, backwards way of thinking. But I get it.
It is, because I think that's just how you want to build it. You want to. It's so funny because they're 1 ADP apart, and I think Jayden Reed literally probably is the more safe pick. But again, it's like, what's the difference between coming 5,000th in the contest to first, or sorry, 2,000?
If this wasn't like a tournament against, like, a big field of other people, then I think Jayden Reed would clearly be the better pick.
Yeah.
But because you're trying to come in first place and beat thousands of other people, I see how Golden actually might have been the better pick. So maybe we got lucky there. Maybe we got bailed out.
We might have. Again, I think, it's just so weird that I think we can kind of, it's this offseason there, you can talk yourself into anything. By the way, let's pray Purdy.
Yes. Yeah, Purdy's an auto pick, right?
Boom, yes. Let's try to figure out our next pick here.
I don't know if maybe we should have taken Goff on the last one, but we didn't think of it with the stacks. He was there on our last turn.
I think Purdy works out.
We probably don't need another quarterback in Love to get the stack, I assume. So are we thinking, running back, receiver, tight end, I'm assuming?
We are a really strong receiver. Like, I'm not sure we even need. We might take one when the opportunity presents itself. Maybe like a Burden if we.
Yeah, but we probably need to focus on, like, running back and tight end, right?
We do. Yeah. This is the running back
don't
spot.
Say Javante.
Okay. I got it. Let's
Tucker Kraft.
Yeah.
Kraft is tempting.
That's it. It's Tucker Kraft. Yeah, it's Tucker Kraft. Yeah, I think that's our pick, because I was gonna say the same thing. We need a Green Bay. Oh wait, no, we do now. Okay. One thing is the Ravens do play the Bears, but we can try to play it through Loveland, through Burden.
Yeah.
So let's go Kraft then.
Okay.
And then.
I mean, we're gonna be a little thin at running back, but maybe we can catch up through volume.
I think it's fine, because if we pick one here, we're not.
Yeah, it's not like there are any, like, starting running backs left anyways, really. So we might as well just get it through volume and just load up on the handcuffs at this point and would be strong everywhere else.
Exactly, yeah, because since we have 6 receivers, we could go a 7th one.
Mm-hmm.
We could choose to stay at 2 tight ends, but there's always room to kind of take that third dart like later.
Yeah.
But we can just backload with volume at running back and darts, into the 20 rounds, which is awesome. And Eckler to me is like one of the only guys that you can confidently in a full PPR look down here and go like, I can kind of get those weeks from week 1.
What about I don't know. Could there? I mean, maybe not just specifically in the context of a full PPR, but just in general. I mean, could there be a role growth for a guy like Ray Davis? Certainly Jalen Wright, we think that he'll have a bigger role this season. So, I mean, some of these guys might have. I mean, of course, if this was a lineup league, you're probably not starting these guys like early in the season, but they could have a weekly role sooner than later.
Oh yeah, I mean, those are some of my favorite running back picks that you just named there. Even Garendo on this price too, where it's just like, okay, if he's the backup, something happens in CMC, like you're praying. It's like as long as he's the backup, he's a good price in this format. This is exactly where you want him.
Yeah.
He plays with the 49ers stuff, which is perfect.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, even like guys like Dowdle and stuff down the board, like I've just easy times clicking. I think Tootin's becoming really, it's just like, do I care about Ramondre Stevenson, and I don't think I care too much the difference between these. I think these guys are better picks, to be honest, and they're going later. I think they're just better players.
Yeah, and I think especially since we do have 2 pretty good running backs with David Montgomery and who was the other guy? Oh, Bucky Irving, of course. So, I don't think we necessarily need to like shoehorn in a Ramondre for that early season production. I think Bucky and Mountie should get us through the early part of the season, and while we wait for these handcuff running backs to emerge through injury or whatever else.
Yeah, I just feel like if those guys are going earlier, like the Stevensons, like Eckler should be going there, in my opinion.
Right.
This is the exact format for him. He was scoring the same amount of points per game as Brian Robinson. He got a concussion.
Yeah, but I think the reason he's not is like he already felt old last year, and now he's like another year older. Whereas like how old is Ramondre Stevenson? Like 27, something like that. So he's got less risk with just aging out, maybe injury, just age-related injury perhaps. So I understand why there's a difference there, but I hear you.
Yeah, I mean sometimes I don't know. I'm not too worried about like all that stuff, but it is probably the reason why it's priced in.
Well, I mean, why aren't you worried about that? I mean, at some point, these running backs, as they get in their early 30s, I mean,
because
they're just going to stop being good at football. And
I would be worried. I just don't think the market on DraftKings understands in this format specifically too that Austin Eckler is one of the best running backs per touch last year. Like
really,
efficiency wise, he was legitimately one of the best. Like especially in receiving, of course. But I think his rushing numbers were like better than you would expect, but his receiving stuff was phenomenal. His target share was phenomenal. Mm-hmm. And then when you look at when he got hurt, it was like worst case scenario because it was, I think, coming off 3 RB1 weeks in a row of like top 12 weeks in a row.
Yeah, so you're saying like he was just starting to get hot, and then he had his momentum.
He gets concussed. Yeah, and then in the playoffs you don't see much. So like he could be zero, he could fall off, but the efficiency was there. He's just a pick to me. It's like Brian Robinson's always dealing with injuries, so
yeah.
To me, he's just kind of a fun way to play one of those offenses on the rise.
Yeah.
But I also think like Rachaad White. Oh, we have Bucky, but I think Rachaad White's like low key an interesting pick. I think we were maybe talking about this recently.
Yeah, because I took a dynasty share of him, even though I think that there's a pretty good chance that Sean Tucker ends up being the RB2, but you never know. I mean, it could kind of go either way.
Yeah, we're up here, by the way. We do have Bucky, so there's not really a point to taking.
How about a Ray Davis? Doesn't he feel like a pretty good fit here?
Yeah, I got him in our queue, so it'll take him. Let's try to figure out this other one. Man, only one quarterback.
Do we need another QB?
You want to generally get 3 in this format because you can afford it.
Yeah.
Like with the, we're running out of options.
Are Are there any potential stacks? I don't think we have any like Raiders or Seahawks
We
or.
could build some out. Like we could do Ward and Okonkwo and like maybe even someone else.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you want to go like that way or Gino or something, but
I kind of feel like we should probably get 2 running backs here, but I could be wrong. I guess the QBs are drying up, so maybe we just get a third QB now. I'll let you make the call.
yeah, let's go quarterback just because once they're gone, they're gone. Like
Yeah.
we're screwed. Let's
But is
play.
this I should probably know this already, but is it 4 points or 6 points for passing touchdown here?
This is 4 points, but it has the bonus 300 passing yards and 100
Okay.
rushing. So
I mean, that makes me think that maybe we should have gone Daniel Jones then.
you don't have to go Daniel Jones right now.
Okay, well then maybe we should have targeted him later. I don't know, but I
So-
do think
Here's like the one interesting thing about Jones and why him and ARs are so low. By the way, just the fact that I mean I'm at least of the belief of this. Nothing against Jones. I don't think if he starts week 1, he's making it through the season unless he gets like benched. AR gets benched and then he gets put back in. Like I actually recently saw something. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you can go look back and see if you see something else. Go look at like his season stuff. But I was looking at a Theo Johnson every target video on Twitter. Someone put it out. Okay.
yeah.
And he had a bunch against the Vikings, and I completely forgot this. I was like vomiting watching Daniel Jones play the Vikings week 1. I had never seen like. I was like, he might be the worst quarterback in the NFL. So I do kind of find it funny, like as a dynasty community, we're like, oh, dude, like, Daniel Jones, like he's gonna come and save these Colts pass catchers. When then like I saw that and it was voided in my mind that like holy crap, he was like so bad last year. It was insane. So, I don't know. Maybe we got to look back at some Daniel Jones
maybe you
tape.
caught him on a bad game. I'm not trying to say Daniel Jones is some world beater or that he's going to be a savior for the Colts, but I do think he's potentially an interesting value in various formats of fantasy football. Especially, 4 points per passing touchdown because we know he gets the rushing stats. And who knows? There's always that potential of like a rebirth in the new location. We've seen it so many times recently with Jared Goff and Baker Mayfield and Geno Smith and Sam Darnold. So we're trying to find that next guy. Maybe we're reaching a little too hard here, but there's going to be some opportunity there with AR being injured and not exactly lighting the world on fire in terms of production, even if it's not all his fault. We've talked about AR a lot, so I know the arguments. I know he didn't always get a lot of help last year from his receivers and just some bad luck and everything. But I don't know. I still think Daniel Jones is kind of intriguing at the right price and the right format.
Yeah, I think Jones I'd be far more in if there wasn't a 4th overall quarterback with 15 games under his belt waiting to get in there mid-season. Like basically the GM needs to somehow save his ass. I don't know how he's not fired yet. All the stuff. So like. All the coaching and everything so like I don't know, is Indianapolis, do we expect them to just be a playoff team under Daniel Jones? Like just
probably not.
And so I guess that's kind of my hesitation for any Daniel Jones full season. You don't want to eat a 0 going into unless it's an injury. I do think he's a good pick though if you want to play. Here's the thing, I think what's stopping these two combination? Like, what's stopping the combo from these two dudes of being a couple good picks?
Right. You're saying get both on the same team?
Yeah, I think that's the real way to play it. Because
especially on DraftKings, where don't you
rounds?
Get a couple more picks than you do on Underdog, so it's probably a little easier to justify 2 QBs from the same team.
The only thing that could really burn you is if it's your playoff week and one of them goes down or one of them's benched and they split the points because it's in the middle of the game and they both score 10 or whatever it is. So I don't know.
We should probably start thinking about our next pick. So who do we end up with? We got Cam Ward.
Yeah, we got Cam Ward. So Okonkwo.
We got Ray Davis, right?
Yeah, we got Ray Davis. Jalen Wright is still sitting there, so we gotta.
Yeah, I love Jalen Wright.
What
a
value!
That's an easy pick.
Yeah, let's go him. How many running backs do we have right now? We just have 3, I think. So this will be our 4th.
Yeah, do you want to double tap running back?
Yeah, who would be the other one though?
How about like a Braylon Allen?
Let's see for ADP. Yeah, he'll be there. It's interesting. Where are you at on? I'll start here. We can go on. Where are you at just in general on Braylon? Because, um, I didn't even realize this. I was looking at his efficiencies versus now Isaiah Davis. Granted, he really is a smaller sample guy. Didn't get
Yeah.
nearly as many touches, but like Braylon Allen was like his metrics on the ground were really bad, and
Were they?
I wouldn't have guessed it.
I'm willing to give him a little forgiveness there just because he was a rookie. And it wasn't a great situation. I mean, it's not like Brees Hall set the world on fire either. So I guess we can blame some of that on the Jets. I know, he's still on the Jets. It is a new regime there. So it is kind of like a fresh start. Hopefully it's a better regime. Hopefully it's a better setup for him to find success on the ground and for his talents to be utilized. But also just the fact that he was a rookie. I mean, I still think that there's some upside there with him. And especially also, regardless of whether he's a good player or not, is there even like a 5% chance that like Brees Hall gets traded between now and the NFL trade deadline?
Oh yeah, there's a chance.
Yeah, what if it even happens before the season? I mean, you just never know. I mean, you just never know on like a random day in like July or August or whatever. There's some breaking news, and Brees Hall's been traded to the Bears or the Commanders, or just who the heck knows. So I think there's some upside there.
Yeah, the one I just had to go check Isaiah Davis because I've never seen this stated, but I've seen lots of comparisons between the two. And yeah, I mean, I didn't realize it was this low, though I should have figured. You want to take a guess or a little stab here at Isaiah Davis rushing attempts? How many that was?
How many rushing attempts he had last year?
Yeah.
I'm going to say, I mean, it's got to be pretty small because when Brees was healthy, I mean, Isaiah Davis was like, as far as I can remember, was like barely seeing the field. I don't remember him really even like touching the ball hardly ever. So it was mostly just like one game, I would think. And I know he caught some passes in that game. So I'm going to say he had like 15 carries on the season.
He had 30, which is one less than Kenny McIntosh in the season.
Oh, wow. That's crazy.
So, yeah, I mean, they fail in the comparisons to actually give a sample because, like we were talking about before, I mean, 30 carries is, I mean, you could look like Barry Sanders on those 30 carries. You could have just played against one of the best run defenses on one of those games where he got half the carries and you weren't expected to look like Barry Sanders. You were actually expected whatever you were carries wise or yards efficiency wise. So yeah, I should probably be a little careful with that, but it's certainly not been making me fade any Braylon Allen. It's maybe made me just a little bit more interested in Isaiah Davis.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think Isaiah Davis is underrated. I mean, if you'll remember last offseason, at cost, I was
free
more on Isaiah Davis than I was on Braylon Allen, and nothing against Braylon Allen.
Yeah. It's because Isaiah Davis was free.
Right, exactly. So he was that free guy in waivers that I was loving to pick up, and it was kind of cool seeing that the one game where like Brees missed, Isaiah Davis scored more fantasy points than Braylon Allen. So I do think he's underrated, but we still got to give Braylon Allen his due respect.
Yeah, exactly. So
Hey, is Dylan Sampson still there? Because I was thinking he's got to be like an auto pick if he's still there.
I think he went.
Did he go? Oh man, that's painful.
We're getting boxed out. Dude, is there any Saint players available?
Is Keaton Mitchell gone? I see you. I have Justice Hill queued up.
They're going much later.
Okay.
We pretty much need to try and get a quarterback 3 here if we can. I mean, Shook isn't very interesting, but he's the only one we can like even project.
Wait, we didn't take Cam Ward, or he was our QB2?
Well, yeah, he's our QB2, but we're looking pretty rough if a rookie's like our only.
Okay, you want to take a QB then?
Let's see if there's anything to stack around Shook. Maybe we'll take Juwan Johnson or something. Like the next.
Is that worth? Okay, I mean, is that worth taking over like a Ferguson? Like, wouldn't Terrence Ferguson fit our build better?
I was just stacking wise, like.
And what about Okonkwo? Is he gone?
Yeah, Okonkwo is gone.
Okay.
Ooh, no. No, no, no.
Yeah,
Ooh.
Noel looks tempting. I mean, I've been big on
Yeah.
Noel lately.
Let's start him. The running backs are about to run out, but we might get... Yeah, we'll figure it out. Oh, jeez. Wait, what did it pick? It picked Justice Hill. Uh-oh. Show or Shook or Noel here?
I'd go Noel.
No, auto draft. You can't see the clock. I must have...
Tyler Shuck was probably the right pick, but when in doubt, I'd probably just take the better player. And I don't know, who do we even draft later, like Shedeur Sanders or Jackson Dart, or if we're even lucky to get them later. So maybe we got bailed out, and
yeah, I think we probably did.
One of those like eat your vegetables kind of picks there, where you just got to do the right thing. But yeah, maybe it's better we didn't have to choose, because it would hard to actually. It would be hard to actually choose Tyler Shuck over Jalen Noel.
I think we made the right pick, though, because we're already so strong at receiver that
that's true.
It's like I mean, this team might have
quarterback that's gonna. Yeah, he doesn't have to be good, but just give us a few usable weeks.
Yeah. Maybe he picks it up in the playoff weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know. We can start.
Or who knows? Like, what if he's actually good at football and he's like the next like Bo Nix or something? Like, crazier things have happened. So.
Yeah. What Saints guys are available that are not named Juwan Johnson? Is there anyone? Bub Means.
Oh yeah, Bub Means. Favorite waiver wire pickup from last year.
Yeah. Oh, Brandon Cooks. Haven't heard much of him this offseason. Devin Neal.
I mean, jokes aside, I mean, I don't think Bub Means is like the worst pick in the world in like the last round. I mean, he put up. I mean, like the first game he actually played real snaps. He put up a decent stat line. I mean, it's nothing amazing, but I think it was like 9 targets, 5 catches, 45 yards, and a touchdown. So, and then he got hurt like game or two later. So,
yeah, I mean, he's just a hard guy to see how he even kind of gets something, because he'll need an injury or maybe 2.
Yeah, probably, unless he beats out Brandon Cooks for like the wide receiver 3 role.
Yeah, I mean, it's just hard to imagine with Cooks's, track record, pretty much. I mean, it's not impossible. That is what's fun, though, because you can take a Bub Means around 20 in this format.
Yeah.
It's kind of, I guess here's the logic, kind of from what I can understand on a player like Bub Means. You don't take him now when they're being drafted around 20. You'd rather pay the round 18 price tag when, the training camp buzz is happening. They actually do win the job.
Right.
Okay, well, their price went up 24 picks from round 20 to round 18. And now you're not eating a 0.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah. So that's kind of how we have to play it, I think, as far as, taking our shots or picking them at this point in the offseason.
Yeah, and how about Cam Ward stats? I mean, do we have like a Chimere DK?
Yeah.
What options do we have here?
I think that DK is like my favorite right now.
Yeah.
And just off some random tweet, I couldn't even tell you if it was real or not.
What random tweet?
I don't know. There was some tweet saying he projects out, projects to start in slot. I have no idea if it's.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you had mentioned that. I don't know what it is, but I just kind of have like a weird, sneaky gut feeling about DK that he might be something halfway decent or interesting, at least among those Titans rookie receivers. You also have like Io Manor, Xavier Restrepo. I mean, they have a lot of new pass catchers. They even draft a tight end, Gunnar Helm. But, you still have Calvin Ridley. You still have Chico Okonkwo. So, and then you got all those running backs, Pollard and Tajay Spears. So, it could, a lot of, like, different guys there that could end up being interesting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, it's kind of a good room to take some shots on here for sure in bestball. What
should we get Juwan Johnson here? I think
we just have to.
Yeah.
And then our next one, I don't think we need to take DK
yet.
Yeah, because I think he basically goes undrafted.
Mm-hmm.
And we own Cam Ward, so he should pretty much go undrafted.
What about like a Jordan James? Stack him with Brock Purdy.
Oh my God, did he go? I think Jordan James actually went.
How about Taj Brooks?
Wait, oh no, Jordan James is here. Okay. There we go. We'll take him. Yeah,
I don't know if it's too early to take Jordan James, but the clock was ticking down. He's just
No.
a name that came to mind. I had stacks on the brain.
Yeah.
But yeah, Taj Brooks would be interesting. I mean, we still need to load up on running backs. Kyle Monangai, I think, could be kind of interesting in Chicago there. So yeah, we'll see who falls the next turn. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we should have prepared for those picks a little more. It's tough not having the timer. I mean, that's really annoying. Like how much time we have left to make the choice, but what are you gonna do?
See, it's Tyler. Yeah, I don't think Lockett's available, but yeah, I mean,
I can't
guess
imagine we reached too much on Jordan James there. I mean, he had to have been coming up on ADP anyway, so I think that's a solid pick there.
We're around 19. There's no such thing.
I mean, there's really no bad pick at this point, right? So
yeah, it's his ADP puts him right around this pick 19, 20
Okay.
turn, but
Okay,
he
cool.
goes undrafted in drafts. I've seen.
I'm sure. Yeah.
You know, there's Taj Brooks goes undrafted, so. But we should probably take DK because we actually have 7 running backs now. We backfill with Justice Hill, who is actually. You could argue he's like Austin Eckler discount. You're getting that receiving ability. You're getting those big weeks. If Austin Eckler doesn't step into a full-time role, you're probably actually better off with Justice Hill.
Yeah. I mean, I like Justice Hill. I mean, he was pretty decent last year. Yeah, especially I would think in best ball. Like it was hard to know when to start him, but he had some nice spike weeks that just kind of happened randomly, you know, when you least expected them. I think I do favor Keaton Mitchell. So it's kind of weird that we end up taking Justice Hill because his ADP's earlier, and then that ends up being like the reason we take him over Keaton Mitchell essentially. So I don't know. I mean,
I would 100% have Justice Hill's ADP higher just because it's full PPR. Now you could say Keaton Mitchell with if he's back to 100%, there's certainly an argument for him because he's so cheap, he's basically free as well. But I think on a build like this where we already have these like, I guess what you'd say way better bets of Justice Hill or of Keaton Mitchell, the Jalen Wrights, the Browns.
Right.
I mean, we
maybe just take like a safer bet that Justice Hill's like the incumbent veteran. He'll probably start the season as the RB2. So yeah, I could
he's like
that.
what they wish Jaleel McLaughlin was in Denver. You know, he has his role. He doesn't step outside of it. If Derrick Henry gets hurt, he probably won't do anything more than what he's already doing. You know, maybe a couple extra touches a game. But
yeah, I think I'd get a little extra.
He chipped in. He had his weeks. That's what we need because we have just basically Irving and Monty for projection wise week 1.
Right.
We kind of just need a Justice Hill on this team. Like we don't have an RB3 on this team. It's just a bunch of handcuffs.
Yeah. By the way, in the live chat, Jacob says, name one rookie running back who had poor efficiency their rookie year and ended up good in real life. I'm curious.
I mean, I bet you there's a few because they just didn't get any touches, like they were Isaiah Davis,
right?
But weren't efficient,
right?
Because they.
I mean, what about? Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, I can certainly think of some players who might end up doing that. I don't know. I'd have to look
right?
Yeah, I was gonna say I'd have to look up. Yeah, like Jalen Wright's average yards per carry. I'm guessing it was probably not much better than like 4.0 or something like that. But obviously, we don't know how that turns out yet. We're only forecasting there. But I'm trying to think someone from the past, who was bad the rookie season and ended up being good. What about Kyron Williams? I mean, was he inefficient his rookie season? I could look that up.
He barely touched the field, I think.
Yeah, but I mean,
35 attempts, so you can't even Isaiah Davis level. 3.9. I mean, one carry would throw that off in either direction, but 3.97. So I don't know if that you can really do anything with that.
So I'm just trying to think of like some other running backs who had bad rookie seasons. Gosh, I don't know. Nothing's immediately coming.
Chase Brown would have been efficient.
Oh, yeah, that's a good call. I just need to see like a list of running backs. That always makes it easier. I'll just pull up like a list of running backs here. Okay, I'm just pulling up like ESPN's PPR
Jacob
redraft.
says this is from your Braylon Allen Cope, Dan. But Dan's the
I was,
Isaiah Davis guy, though.
yeah, I had a feeling that had something to do with our Braylon Allen discussion.
Oh, did you guys talk? Oh, yeah, we did.
No,
I
just
get
you and I earlier talking about Braylon Allen.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I see.
Okay, I'm looking at a list of running backs here, make it easier on myself. Actually, Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he wasn't like. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think he was like a world beater his rookie season. I think it was like year 2 where he really took the leap forward. So I'm gonna look up Christian McCaffrey's rookie season rushing stats.
Yeah, I mean, so his yards per carry was 3.7. I think the issue here though is like we don't have the full story as far as what was the the EPA and all that stuff. Like that's really the way better
Okay,
than the yards per carry.
but just looking at it generically, just okay. Yeah, what was the result, the production, the efficiency there?
It was his least efficient season as a
Yeah,
rookie. He then yards per carry wise got better, but again, we can't really see what the whole story was. But just
yeah, but
looking
I
at
mean,
that,
but yeah, I think at least generically or simplistically, I think that does answer Jacob's question and give an example of that.
yeah, I
At
mean
least
the
on the surface.
the issue with with CMC, I guess of what the issue of like kind of using him as an example. I guess if you're like talking about okay, who you can buy into fantasy, well, he had 113 targets and 80 catches. So
Yeah.
CMC, and I think it's the same thing as Kamara. No one drafts CMC and Kamara for their rushing efficiency. So I guess like Braylon Allen, you're not gonna get that. So a guy like Braylon Allen or whoever, you need them to be good on the ground.
I have an interesting one,
Bigsby.
although I might give half credit for this. Jonathan Taylor, who was god awful like the first half of his rookie season, and then he got hot. I remember because I drafted him in my home redraft league that year, and I think I traded him to my brother like right before he broke out, and I was sick about it.
Oh man, yeah, I'm sure there's some stories on JT there in redraft. I saw someone recently talking about people were saying this crazy bad running back was like. They were saying the same thing. They traded JT for like one of the worst names you could ever pull out of a fantasy bucket, and then
Right.
the next week was like the takeoff. Here's one. But here's the funny thing with Bigsby. He ended up having an efficient overall season in that really good stretch, but his like numbers past whatever like mid season weren't even like any good really at all. He was just completely went back to being mid basically. But he had that crazy
Yeah.
few week stretch where he was awesome, including week 1 or whatever. But Bigsby's at least one of them where he looked better.
Yeah, I've got 2 more for you here: James Cook and James Conner.
Interesting. Was Cook in? Yeah, he got. Actually, well, his yards per carry, it's again, it's smaller, way smaller sample. It's saying he was efficient, but he remember he got doghoused. His first carry was a fumble, and then basically just never touched the ball again for half the season.
Yeah,
I think he got some chances due to injury late in the season, but James Conner, let's see.
I don't think he was that great his rookie season. If I remember.
I think fantasy he was either second, his first or his second. Yeah, it was his second.
I think it was his second season. That's when like Le'Veon Bell sat out the season.
Yeah, I got 32 sample. Like it's just
Okay, so tough to count that.
Yeah, nothing. Didn't even get. Yeah. He had 1 target. So.
How about what about like Chuba Hubbard? Maybe that's another small sample, but I don't remember him.
I bet you he was half decent, at least production wise, because CMC got hurt. Did he not that season? No,
what was his yards per carry?
Yeah, his yards per carry were actually that was his worst, 3.5.
Yeah.
Remember CMC had went down a couple games there, and he punched a couple in, so he's kind of usable, but yeah, he wasn't that efficient.
Yeah.
Ended up he's been pretty good on the ground the last couple of years.
Okay. I think we came up with at least a few decent examples there, so I think it's possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think Braylon Allen and Hubbard are actually pretty good, at least comparison of maybe prospect, like where they got drafted.
Mm-hmm.
Talent, why I know they're different backs completely, but hey, they both have a superstar running back ahead of them. So, you know.
What about Austin Eckler would be another interesting one to look at. I'm trying to think. I don't think he was like a instant. What was he? I mean, I'm trying to remember his rookie season.
Yeah, I was about to say, I think he was like gonna be efficient basically every year, and that is what happened because the Eckler story was, well, man, actually, he doesn't get hurt as much as I thought he did. He was constantly missing games, I thought,
Mm-hmm.
but maybe it was like, okay, he missed a couple on the big weeks or something. But with Melvin Gordon, he was always like taking those big plays, those home runs off. And then I remember, yeah, it must have been this year, 2020, where he got hurt, and was looking like one of the top fantasy running backs. But
What was his rookie season yards per carry though?
it was his best on paper, five and a
Okay.
half. Yeah, he basically went down every year or whatever. But
Yeah. I guess that's not too surprising because I mean, yeah,
he
when
was
he
just
started playing, like it was pretty clear right away that like, oh yeah, this guy's pretty good.
because he'd get 40 touches, he'd take one to the house, and then he's
That
gonna
would
look on
help.
paper regardless. Yeah, so,
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah,
I mean, I think it's possible though. I mean, I think there are a lot of different circumstances that you have to take into account. I mean, what was working in Braylon Allen's favor last year? Or same thing you could say about Breece Hall, Isaiah Davis. Like, what did like any offensive skill position player in the Jets have working in their favor last year?
pretty much nothing.
Name one positive thing.
Yeah, that pretty much nothing.
Yeah, exactly. So like we have to consider that.
Yeah, exactly. I think the same. It's the same argument for Brees, but basically everyone in this entire offense can get the same argument. Of
even got Garrett Wilson, who
Yeah.
didn't even have a bad year last year. So there could be some meat left on that bone as well.
yeah, I got the perfect one. This guy surely didn't have an efficient rookie season. As far as actually no, that's not true at all because his thing is he wasn't even gonna be a running back. He wasn't even a running back.
Cordell Patterson.
But I bet you Cordell Patterson is rushing. It's always going to be efficient because it was always a couple carries, and he probably took one to the house or whatever. But when was his first running back? See, okay, it was when he left. No, he was always efficient. Of course he was, but that would have been a funny pull because obviously he was just the fantasy god there in like 2021 or whatever it was. But
yeah, and I can't remember how many of these follow-up Jacob comments you read, but he said Kyron's an interesting pull, CMC interesting, Chuba interesting. Yep, it's possible. Okay, so it sounds like we found some common ground there.
Yeah, I mean I think the key is just how many carries did these guys even get? Number one, if you had 30 carries,
you want to try to find a decent sample size, in order to judge it.
Yeah, Braylon Allen had 90 carries on the Jets. Like it's here's the thing. Yeah, it's an interesting comp between Davis and Allen because they're actually pretty affordable in Dynasty and basically all formats. So,
yeah.
I mean, there could be something said in Dynasty just get both of them. I think maybe Matt and I did that. I think we maybe.
Yeah, although that's something I always struggle with because I'm probably more pro handcuff than anti handcuff in Dynasty specifically, where I think it's easier to pull off the handcuff thing than it is in like a typical home league redraft league. But the thing that I generally don't like to do, and tell me if you disagree with this at all, but like if I have the number 2 running back on a team, like a Braylon Allen, I really don't want to have like the number 3 running back on the team as well, like on the Dynasty team as well, like an Isaiah Davis. Because I just feel like, well, I already have one backup on the Jets. Why do I want like 2 backups on the Jets? Like, what does that add to my Dynasty roster? So
I think it really depends. So it looks like we ended up even getting him in this team, but that would have been a perfect. It'd be like, yeah, why would you want all the Jets running backs on this?
Well,
start
here's
10.
the thing. Like if I own Breece and then it's like a deep rosters.
Exactly.
Okay, I could see a scenario where just like give me all 3 of them. But like if I only own Braylon Allen and like let's say I'm still in a startup and it's like round whatever it is, like really late round, and like Isaiah Davis is sitting there, like unless he's just so clearly the best player on the board and like maybe I can trade him or maybe trade Braylon Allen but then keep Isaiah Davis. But like assuming I can't trade, or let's just assume that there's not a lot of trade demand for either guy. If I anticipate that I might get stuck with both, I don't think I really want the RB2 and RB3 on an NFL team on the same dynasty team.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird for me because I think Davis is one where it's like, hey, he cost you like nothing in a startup. I think in
Right.
this one he actually went ahead of like his ADP. I've seen him go round 26 this year. It's like, okay, I'm paying nothing but a roster spot.
Yeah.
I will, regardless if I have Brees or not, if I have, or even regardless if I have one or the other, if I already, number one, regardless if I have like any Jets, like, okay, I'll take Isaiah Davis, number one.
Well, no, if you have Brees,
if I have,
well, yeah, give me Isaiah Davis as a handcuff.
if I have both though, and he's just costing a roster spot, as long as it's not like this league where it's 14 bench spots, if it's
Wait, both meaning Brees and Braylon Allen?
if it's like our classic, what we've been playing in with these other leagues, the break room and stuff, 18 bench spots, 5 taxis, 5 IR. I mean, especially once like the season starts, and then if the challenge is getting him into week 1, then you'll get these injuries, and then all of a sudden, by the way, like your bench spots really open up. Like I don't know if that's really thought about enough. If you can just bring players into the season, people are gonna get hurt. You can throw them on IR. Now it's like really affordable to like these bench spots. You're picking up garbage for half the season. I love in a deep format to actually just go and get Isaiah Davis because it's like, hey, I didn't pay much for Braylon Allen anyways, whatever it was, round 15 or 16. I have him on this team. If I'm wrong, well, I guess what? I got the reason I was wrong for free. And I'm just guaranteed to have the dude.
Even if you don't own Brees, but let's just say you have Braylon Allen, you don't mind taking Isaiah Davis if it's a decent value later on in like a startup draft?
Well, I wouldn't take him if it wasn't a good value because I'm not going to reach on him. But because he's just so cheap anyways, like if he's just sitting there, I'll take both of them because, again, if you get him at his price, he's still free.
Yeah, and then once you do that, are you looking to trade one of them, or you're just fine having the RB2 and RB3 even though on the Jets, even though you don't have Brees on the team?
No, I'm just fine betting against Brees in that league because.
Okay.
Yeah, and here's the thing: what happens if Brees gets traded, like you were saying, or he gets hurt?
Yeah, then I guess now you have the RB1 and RB2.
Yeah.
So I guess there are some scenarios, but generally I just don't like to do that. But I think there are some exceptions. But I think the greater point, and I'm curious, Blake, how you would answer this. Let's say, okay, you have Braylon Allen, you're in the startup draft, it's round 20-something. Isaiah Davis is sitting there, but also sitting there is like, who would be like a similar RB3, like
Sean
young.
Tucker.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Sean Tucker. So Sean Tucker and Isaiah Davis are there. Let's say you view the running backs pretty similarly in terms of talent, value, whatever. You do not own Brees. You do own Braylon Allen. Are you taking Sean Tucker or Isaiah Davis in that scenario?
Wait, I own Braylon, not Brees?
Correct.
I don't know. I'd have to be put in that situation to really tell you. I think in my head, I would just play the situation of like, I'm not like trying to bet on both RB3s because it's pretty unlikely, or I'm not trying to like play on both backfields. I would just kind of like leave one team to. I would probably just try to get both. Number one, that would be like a real answer. If I had to pick one, I would be like, hey, why don't I just get both these guys? They're pretty good deals. I would play the number one backfield, like it would be like if I had Rashad White. Like I would want to get Sean Tucker more than I would Isaiah Davis. And here's the big thing though. I'm not gonna say that for every backfield. I'm just gonna say that for these Bucks. Those are two perfect examples: Bucks and Jets, because I actually like those RB3s. If I didn't like the RB3, I wouldn't care about getting the RB3.
Right.
It just so happens those are two of the RB3s I actually like.
Right.
So if it was really, I mean, you could call it just about any other backfield that doesn't have a intriguing RB3. I wouldn't care.
Maybe it depends a little bit on your roster construction as well. Like if you're weaker at running back,
which I normally am.
Could you argue that, okay, just let me lock up backup running back to kind of like almost like guarantee me like something of value? Whereas if I go with like Isaiah Davis and Sean Tucker and then the backups end up being Braylon Allen and Rashad White, then you're really screwed. So I think maybe it's a little bit of like kind of like taking the double over like swinging for the home run kind of thing. So it might depend a little bit on the league and your roster construction and your strengths and weaknesses up to that point. I think generally speaking, I like to swing for the upside and mix it up. But I could see certain scenarios where it's like, yeah, let me just lock up, backup Bucks running back or backup Jets.
Yeah, I agree. Generally, I do want to swing for the upside, but especially if we're
Yeah.
talking about a startup or just a league where I don't.
Mhm.
Or here's the thing: if I already have a established team over a year or so, I'm not even worrying about these RB3s in the first place. These guys are
Right, right.
irrelevant.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, for
but
sure.
if I'm in a startup and it matters for now, it matters going into the season.
Yeah,
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I want to swing for upside and all that stuff, but I'm going to do that in different ways on my roster.
yeah.
I would just rather own Jets backups or
Okay.
Bucks backups because if something happens, I know I got someone to play, and especially if
Yeah.
I own Bucky Irvin or Brees Hall, now I really know I got someone to play. Because I can tell you right now, you look at my startup teams coming out. The reason I love taking these backfields like the Jets, or I'm not even taking White, but I'll take Tucker's if possible,
Yeah.
because they're so damn cheap, and I
Right.
can lock up. If something happens, I can lock up. The backfield or handcuffs.
Yeah.
That's what I gotta hope for. So
Yeah.
um, it does play a little bit backwards of generally how you want to play fantasy, how
Right.
you want to play dynasty. But the key is your confidence in the player or how good you think they are when they get touches.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, the price is the 24th round of a startup.
Mhm.
That's not even a price to me. That's literally free.
Yeah. And also, even if this isn't something that's likely, what if you just end up taking the player that you think is more talented rather than just going for, okay, let me get this running back that's on a different team, but like they're not going to be on the same NFL team for their whole
Yeah.
career. I mean, one might be in the last year of their contract, or one might just get traded out of the blue. Circumstances do change, so maybe you're just kind of better off taking the best player. I don't know. Hard
That
to speak in too much generality, but
it's yeah, it's funny that we're talking about the Jets backfield with this because I think that's basically why the Jets backfield is like the one. If you were to own all three of them, you could be really happy
oh, because yeah,
because
Brees gets traded. Like now you're talking.
not
Yeah,
only
for
does he
sure.
get traded, but if he just goes on, walks after his contract, finds a new team, sure
Yeah.
they could find another running back. But what if they don't?
Mhm.
Right? What if they really like Isaiah Davis? Also, it's been funny because the Jets have been, the coach speak. Oh, we really want to use all three running backs, and I think that's
Yeah.
really been driving Brees' price down. I think it's just
Yeah.
again as I'm talking up, these other backs. It doesn't matter. Like they're not gonna beat Brees Hall for touches. Like that's just absurd to even think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Isaiah Davis is stealing Brees Hall's workload. Like what are we talking about?
Yeah.
Um,
What is it gonna be like? Yeah, 3 touches a game. Like, give me a break.
so you
Like,
want to talk about a guy, in my opinion, and then Jacob and I were even talking about this on the last stream. That is like the echo chamber off-season narrative, like getting dinked. It's Brees Hall off these stupid quotes. Um, it doesn't mean he's a guaranteed smash, but people are like his price legitimately is down. We've seen it go down because of Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis coach speak.
yeah. I was just hearing an interesting conversation about tearing down to Brees Hall. It was on wait, what channel is he on now? It's like it was one of the South Harmon guys. Oh yeah, now he also does content for BDGE.
Okay, I don't know his name,
There's
but
it's the the
I
guy
know
with the
who he
beard.
is.
But you can picture him.
Yeah, yeah,
And he just did like it was just like a live stream where he was talking about like different things, but he was talking about a tear down from Jameer Gibbs to
yeah.
Brees Hall, and I was kind of surprised to hear this, although I don't think it's crazy, but he was saying that like even just like Brees Hall in a first, he'd be tempted to like move off of Jameer Gibbs, and then he was like, if it's 2 firsts in Brees Hall, then that's like basically like an auto accept. And
Yeah.
of course, like, that's pretty like easy to say. As much as I love Gibbs, but I thought it was interesting that he'd even consider like 1 first in Brees Hall. What do you think about that?
Yeah, yeah, I do. I don't know. Did we not have this like exact tear down? Like, who was I talking to that about? Was that not you then?
I mean, I don't remember it recently. I mean, I'm sure probably at some point it's come up because we talk so damn much.
It might
But
have been late season or early off season, and we were or whoever I was talking with was
okay,
exactly this exact conversation about Gibbs and even Bijan going down to Brees because you're getting the same talent. They were just going. The only difference is that Brees.
They were like identical a year ago in value.
The only difference is that Brees was in the terrible situation where the other two weren't. He got hurt like the other two didn't, and now there's this huge gap, and now you can get a first plus on top. So it's
that was our conversation. Yeah, I remember it. Yeah.
So if there was ever, exactly. I remember it was snowing out. I have these weird visualizations of like having
the memory is too good.
Conversation. So it must have been the winter, and I remember where I was when we were having this. I don't know if that's like a thing, by the way. Like I will be in locations, especially because I'm in work and I'll be listening to podcasts. I will drive by a location instead of like. I will have memories associated to like some random spot in some random road that I couldn't even tell you the road name. But I'd be like, I remember 3 years ago I was listening to this podcast and they were talking about I don't know, McCaffrey or whatever. It's so weird how my brain functions.
That's hilarious.
I know we had this conversation, but it was basically like why that is probably the glitchiest down tier you could do. Unfortunately, I can't even take advantage of it because I own one Bijan. I own one Gibbs. They're both on extremely extremely loaded teams, and one of them I already own Brees on, so with the Bijan team. So I can't even take advantage of this down tier myself because I just don't own those players. But I do think that's a glitch.
I'm trying to think of. I'm sorry. I was just saying. I was trying to think of how many shares I own. I think I only have one Gibbs. And, of course, I'd hate to lose, like, my one share because, of course, I'm a Lions fan and Jameer Gibbs is amazing. I think I have two Bijan, so I guess I could try doing it to one of the shares. But an idea that I just had is that I think I have, like, 5 Ashton Genty shares. So that would be a fun down tier. I mean, is there anyone out there that would pay me Brees Hall and 2 firsts for Ashton Genty? Because I would have a pretty hard time not accepting that in a heartbeat.
This is a fun one because – I think Ashton Genty's just it's really I can't even argue with his price. I think I've genuinely I think I've had a dream of like it was like a visualization of like Ashton Genty on his first drive. I don't know like how this even like this is literally something at some point I had a dream of, and I was like on the field basically and I was like watching Ashton Genty and he took his first carry 70 yards to like the 4-yard line. It was like he just came up short, and I was just thinking to myself, like I messed up, like not having Ashton Genty because he was like, okay, this is clearly a guy you need to own this year.
Right.
So it's hard to say selling Genty. However, let's think about some range of outcome stuff here. What we were talking about earlier about expectations and stuff. Well, in Dynasty, Brees Hall just looks like Brees Hall. The Jets' offense is, it doesn't even need to be good. They were awful, and Mike White and Tim Boyle and Zach Wilson got Brees Hall somehow to RB2 in 2023. So we know it doesn't need to be good. But if it is, Brees Hall's ceiling is RB1 overall. That is still in the range of outcomes. I don't see why it wouldn't be.
Yeah,
he should be an RB1 as long as Safner doesn't strike. Okay. Top 12 back.
Yeah.
So should Ashton Genty, but what are the odds Brees Hall starts the first month or two ahead of Ashton Genty? You could almost say it's more favorable for Brees Hall. I would in fact probably argue that just because he's a veteran player.
Yeah, he's not a rookie. So you would expect more often than not that Brees Hall would outscore Ashton Genty in the month of September, let's say.
Yeah, and even if it's not. It might be by 10 points or whatever, or a couple points per game, but pretty reasonable to expect something like that. So it is funny that you might get the exact same season out of both running backs. I would say projections wise.
Yeah.
The points might come in different areas, like more Brees Hall early, but Genty better at the second half.
Right.
You might get the same season overall points wise on these guys.
Absolutely. And to think you could get a first or 2 firsts like on top, it seems pretty wild.
Yeah. Now, that's where it kind of gets like, how much do you need to go off? Because Genty, if Brees does have a down bad year, you need to factor that in.
Oh yeah, because his value could go to almost 0 pretty quickly.
Yeah, he could be ETN right now.
Yeah,
right?
he could be like, yeah, worth like a year from now. It's in the range of outcomes that Brees Hall could be worth like a single second,
Because how
something like
many
that.
players last year would have went to they could have went from literally Bijan or Gibbs themselves to ETN and got just a first down and be like, "Ha, I'm cheating the system," you know,
Mhm.
or maybe they got a first and a second just for the actual realistic of what his price was. Well, now they didn't cheat the system; they're kicking themselves for that trade. But
Mhm.
if you believe Brees Hall is who we think he is,
Yeah,
I think that's completely fine. Uh, Tear down too, yeah.
yeah. So I mean, I love Genty. I mean, there's certainly a reason why I have 5 shares of him.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I don't even know how I quite got that many. I mean, I think I had like a few high picks, and it was just like, it was just tempting to trade up like 1 or 2 spots or whatever, and just like, hey, just give me the best guy in this
Yeah.
rookie draft. I think the more I thought about it, it was just realizing what a great situation Genty was going into on the Raiders with Pete Carroll and Chip Kelly. Like, I mean, just what a perfect situation for a running back to be in. And he's a great prospect. And they bring over Geno Smith, and they're adding like weapons in the draft. And yeah, it just seems like a great situation. So yeah, I'm definitely not trying to get off any Genty shares. I'm loving
Yeah.
life having 5 shares of
I
him.
wish
But
I had
yeah,
five.
if someone out there in one of my leagues wants to offer me
I,
Brees and 2 firsts, like
oh,
we can have a conversation about that. We can probably work something out.
yeah. I wish I had five. I do. I think Genty's the guy I would like to be overweight on. It's just so hard to do. And here's the
Hmm.
thing. I had a like. I ended up because I had already traded up at completely reasonable prices to picks 3 to 5 in a bunch of drafts to get
Hmm.
Travis Hunter,
Right.
and Tet. And picks
Yeah.
4 to 6 for Tet. And the reason I did it was so affordable. 1 second. But for Genty, there was no like appropriate trade up price. I thought Joshy and I got a pretty reasonable. The one share I do have, I had to talk him into it, but it was a completely reasonable price to go from
Yeah.
4 to 1. We
Hmm.
actually technically played less than a 26 first to move up because we got a pick kickback.
Yeah.
But man, yeah, I mean, you really got to pay up to get him.
Yeah. You do.
He's a bad. So yeah, I didn't own any 101s. So yeah, he's a tough guy to get your hands on.
Yeah.
And basically any 101, if you didn't have tanking teams, like you might have zero of them,
Hmm.
like him or hate him as process.
Yeah.
But
I mean, I'm almost like curious now just to look at my 5 shares and just kind of like remind myself how I got them. I mean, would you be interested in like hearing that real quick, or does
yeah,
it not really matter?
no, I'd be interested to hear how you got them.
Okay. Let's check it out then.
Well, you drafted one with Randy and the startup.
Yeah, so that's the Aqua League. So yeah, we drafted him in the
Okay.
startup. He fell to, I believe it was a 205, and so we thought that was pretty good value. So that's how I got 1 share.
Oh, you're in another one with me that you got him, and it's the Dynasty Savvy Listener League.
Yeah,
You must
that
have
was
traded
via
for me.
trade. And yeah, I mean that in that trade, I believe, let me just refresh my memory before I start talking about it, because I've made a lot of trades with Colossal. So yeah, I don't want to mix it up with any other one. But it looks like, pulling up the history here.
Was
Oh
it?
yeah, I gave up Malik Neighbors and I got back Ashton Genty and 2 seconds, 26 and 27.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, obviously I'm giving up a premium player, but I'm getting back a premium player and the 2 seconds. So I was like, okay, yeah, I'll take the leverage in that trade. So that was a second share. And then Greaseball definitely paid up in this league.
Yeah,
He
that
did
was.
the famous trade with Coda, where I had the 102 because I had basically been tanking. So I gave up,
The
or wait,
102 and the 103 for Genty and the 112.
yeah,
And then the collateral was like Reed for the 205.
yeah. I also had to give up. I also had to give up Jaden Reed, but I got the 205 kickback. So it seemed like most people thought I lost that trade. I mean, it definitely wasn't cheap. I thought it was pretty fair. Um, I was a little down on Reed at the time, so I was kind of just like happy to cash out. But I've come back around, in part thanks to you. Of course, Reed was a huge buy last season for me. Maybe it was because I kind of got burned that there was this brief period early this offseason where I was kind of like, screw Jaden Reed, but yeah, I'm back in now.
Yeah. What are these other? I don't think you own
And
them
then,
other
yeah, the
these
other
in there.
shares, let's see. I also have them in, what is it? Oh, it pays to be the boss. So that's the 0.25 point per carry league. And I think I just had I just had the 101. And I mean, I was open to trade backs, but it was definitely going to take a lot to let go of Ashton Genty in a 0.25 point per carry league. So just took him there at the 101. And then the last share is in this Guardians of the Dynasty League. That's a just this like random 10-team league that I play in with Randy, who's the commissioner of it. And Randy actually drafted Genty,
Okay.
and then we did a trade. So yeah, tell me what you think of this trade. We probably talked about it when it happened, at least briefly. But I gave up Christian McCaffrey, Garrett Wilson, R.J. Harvey, and a third and 26 for Ashton Genty and Quinshon Judkins. I got Luke Musgrave thrown in, but I didn't even want him thrown in. Randy just like threw him into the final offer, and I cut him right away. So let's just take out Musgrave in the third. It's basically
This is the deal that was really similar to the one that you and I did for Bucky Irving. Because you got the better young running back. McCaffrey was thrown back and both. And then it was like, okay, you feel like you might, because they might produce similar, you might get a Garrett Wilson, printed out of it. And then, okay, Judkins and Harvey are close enough in rookie ADP that it's like, it's not the biggest thing in the world. You can get you can't even probably get a second on top or something.
Oh yeah, I mean Judkins and Harvey just like basically cross them out because
in the grand scope of things, at least.
Yeah, I mean, Judkins is worth more, maybe a little more value insulation. He's younger, maybe more upside. But Harvey, I could definitely see out producing Judkins year one. So just as far as I'm concerned, that's like dead even.
We're talking Genty and we're talking all these other guys. Like the difference is negligible in the grand scheme of things. So yeah, I mean I think, and we've already talked about this on the stream. And I basically said I mean I love Genty. Bucky I was talking up earlier, but give me. I mean we know it's CMC.
I mean come on. Is there any doubt with you? But I mean. Looking back on this trade, like I couldn't remember the exact details, so I was kind of thinking in my head, like, oh gosh, like is this one I'm going to look back on and ask myself, like, what was I thinking? I still really like the trade, so I totally see why I did this. I wouldn't want to undo this or anything. Like I'm happy I made this trade, but I can certainly understand the other side of it. I mean, it could work out.
It means it was a fair trade. Because
I think it was a fair trade.
I think that's the funniest part about like trades in general. It's like when people are like, like, why, you don't like this side or that side? Well, it's like, well, if there was a clear side to really like, the trade wouldn't have got done in the first place.
Right. Exactly.
You need to be able.
People got to sign off on it.
People need to be able to see the vision for both sides, and it's like, I mean, a lot of the times the sides that we might actually even like, Dan, for whatever one reason or another, I mean, maybe we should start keeping track.
Yeah.
For all we know, they're just going, we're 50-50 on them anyways, And also, another big thing about these trades is like, okay, what's going to win come mid-season or whatever, in season? What's going to win 3 years down the road? That's a huge difference. And I think when I'm replying back to trades, Dan, of when we're asked or when we're looking at trades or talking about our own trades, is I've just completely stopped looking like 3 years down the road.
Okay.
Basically at all, because I mean you just go look at NFL rosters 3 years ago. Go look at leading scorers 3 years ago. Christian Kirk was a wide receiver 1 3 years ago.
Right.
Crazy things happen.
Yeah.
No one in the NFL has like any kind of true certainty. I mean, like at all. I mean, look at Deshaun Watson. I don't need to say any more. So I just don't even really think about that. I'll just understand the scope that, hey, Malik Neighbors could be literally a Hall of Fame player. I should be very careful trading a guy like that, or
Yeah.
Puka, or
Right.
Nico, whatever, whoever it is.
Yeah.
But or Jefferson. So it's like, okay, I need to factor all that in. But especially when we're not talking about players like that, basically once you're out of like Hall of Fame potential
Yeah.
players and all pro players, it's like, dude, who's gonna have a longer career? Juwan Jennings or what's another player that we think should have a long? Let's call it a rookie. Let's say like Juwan Jennings or like Trey Harris or something like that.
Okay.
Or like who's gonna have a longer career? It's like I don't know. I mean, it should be Trey Harris, but he needs to hit. He needs to
He needs to prove he's good at football in the NFL first before we can even
and
talk about that.
yeah, I mean that's a longer career is another thing. It's like who actually? I mean, Jalen Rager is still kicking around the NFL. Who's
Right.
actually having a longer career of fantasy production?
Yeah,
And
production.
a funny thing about this would be like imagine when QJ got drafted in versus Keenan Allen. It's like okay, Keenan Allen is a fossil. QJ's the young stud rookie. Well, I mean, you never know. We might get a QJ comeback one day, but Keenan Allen he lasted longer and he was really useful when he did. So it's funny to like. I mean, I think I try to factor that in is like okay, nothing's a guarantee for any player. If you're producing right now, that's certainly going to be accounted for in my trade philosophy or value philosophy. If you're doing something right now versus you were waiting on it, it's not gonna be the end of the world. It doesn't mean that side wins,
Yeah.
but there's this edge that I don't think the market will account for this uncertainty. I don't know. Does that make any sense?
Oh yeah, for sure. And also something I just wanted to add to the conversation about you saying that you not looking back on trades like 3 years down the line. Another reason for that is that the player you traded for might not even be on your team 3 years down the line. So what
That's
does
the
it even
biggest thing.
matter? So
That's
all
the
it
biggest
really
thing.
matters is what did you gain from the point that you acquired this player to the point where you then traded away that player?
Yep.
Did you gain value in that time? That's all that really matters.
Yep.
But I mean, when you're as passionate about dynasty as we are, and make as many trades as we do, it's pointless to think. Look back 3 years because that player's probably not on your roster anymore.
Yeah.
And it was just a move to get to another move to get to another move, which hopefully all led to winning a championship and taking home some money. I mean, ultimately. So why even waste your time looking back on anything? I mean, I think you should look back and say, oh, you know what, that was a really awful trade I made. What can I learn from that? But there's no point in analyzing every trade 3 years later and trying to do the mental gymnastics of oh, well, I traded this player into this and then I turned into that. I mean, sometimes it's fun just as a bragging point, but it's just kind of a waste of time to think about that stuff too much.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No. Well said. Because that's also what I wanted to bring up as well was the fact that even if you trade player X for player Y, a player in then 3 years down the road, player X is better than player Y. Well, that doesn't mean that when you traded them, that's how it was. I mean, there's just it literally just depends on what you do with the player when you have them.
Yeah. Right.
So yeah, I mean, if you somehow traded a Keenan Allen and a Quentin Johnston or something, well, hey, that might have seemed like a great trade at one point in Dynasty. But
or what
doesn't even matter.
I was just gonna say, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but something that just came to mind is I remember in Walter White's lab, we traded for T. Higgins, and at the time we weren't even really that high on T. Higgins. It was very early last season, I believe, during the season, but pretty early, before T. Higgins really broke out.
It was before week 2. It was
before week 2, yeah. So it was very early, and neither of us were that crazy about T. Higgins at the time, but I can't remember exactly what we gave. What was it,
2 seconds? 2 seconds and Greg Dortch.
Yeah. So, it was just a good value trade, but we had in mind that, before we even accepted this offer or whatever, that, he's a placeholder. Like, we're not going to keep him long. We're going to try to turn him into something better. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we turn him into Jamar Chase.
Like immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So obviously, like, I mean, both players were, awesome. Obviously, Jamar Chase even better. So, yeah, that was good. That getting T. Higgins allowed us then to eventually get Jamar Chase. But I was thinking about, think of a scenario in which, let's just say for fun, that T. Higgins like went on to get hurt after we moved him for Chase, and then Chase went on to have his amazing season, maybe even better if T. Higgins had gotten hurt.
Let's just say T. Higgins didn't have the end of the season he had. Is that what you're trying to say?
Let's just say like T. Higgins was bad last year after we moved him for Chase, and like Chase was amazing. T. Higgins was either just bad or got hurt or whatever.
Yeah.
When you look back on trading 2 seconds for Higgins, you could then say like, oh, well, that was a bad trade because like those 2 seconds are, more valuable than T. Higgins now because like he sucked last year and he lost a lot of dynasty value in this theoretical world, right? Yeah. But like it didn't matter because like we turned him into Jamar Chase. Obviously we had to add to that, but my point is, it's like it's more about what you do with the player. It's not just how that one specific player you acquired turned out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. And I mean like that. I mean one of my most fun things with these McCaffreys and stuff and getting them in trades, these more veteran types.
Yeah.
Is like again, I mean at least we'll see again injury variance and just unpredictable bad stuff that we can't project out could absolutely kill certain player strategies if I go in too heavily. But it's like, well, when you hit on the right vet, not only do they, this is my favorite thing. Not only do they go up in value tremendously in season.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? They're not sitting on your bench. You're actually starting them. They're getting you out to a hot start likely if they're performing to value or more.
Yeah.
You now have not only the opportunity to sell high on them, but they also probably got you at the top of the league. So it's like this stacked like double win. Where like you're not only you're not just winning in the production or they come together. So like I've really been like I've really been trying to put that together in my rosters. Like, okay, if I win this bet, like I'm in a really good spot because not only did I, if you win the value on maybe like a younger player, it doesn't mean they're like producing well for you. Does that make sense? Because they're more so showing flashes. Like when Dontavian Wicks went up in value, doubled in price in 1 week. He played a terrible real life game. No one probably started him. But he scored a bunch of fantasy points at the end of the day. He doubled in value in 1 week. Well, I mean, he didn't help your team at all. I mean, if your player,
if anything, you started him the next week when he did like nothing, right? I mean, so you kind of got screwed 2 weeks in a row. Whereas with these like James Connors and Devontae Adams and stuff like that, if they're productive, you're starting them, and so you're getting the value gain compared to what you paid for them probably in the offseason, and you're getting the production. And not only are you getting the production, you're getting the production in your starting lineup. You're actually capturing that production.
You're taking advantage of all that stuff. And the funny thing is, a lot of honestly, there's so many different arguments for players of why like, Dan, you might like a player and I don't really like him at all, or I'm just like, I think their price is fine. But the funny thing is like there are certain players where like, it's like honestly, if that's just how you think about them, like the Brock Purdy's of the world to me. I would call that like this. I don't know. Jared Goff again for us. It's like these are kind of players that we're not trying to flip. We're just completely fine leaving it in our lineup. We're gonna collect their points. We're gonna watch them outproduce their ADP, and we're probably just gonna keep holding on to them unless someone, somehow comes up and pays big for them.
Yep.
And I don't even know if that's even like talked about enough. We're always so focused on like winning and value and like flipping and flopping. They're like actually just players I just own not to even trade at all, and that's one.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, Jared Goff's a perfect example of that.
David Njoku and tight end premiums.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there are a number of players like that, and sometimes, sometimes like we'll get into a discussion where maybe I like one side of a trade. It might even be one that like I'm considering, or it doesn't even matter. But you might say that like, oh well, this player's like hard to trade, or that player might just
Yeah.
get like stuck on your roster. And a lot of times my response is like, well, who cares? Like I'm happy to have this player on my
Yeah.
roster. I mean, sure, it's nice if they're easy to trade, and I'd like to have that flexibility and everything. But there are definitely some players that like I'm just content for them to just stay on my roster and score a lot of points for me. And even if I end up never trading them and they just die on my roster whenever their career's over, like I'm okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. If you're fine with that, whoever that player is staying on your
Yeah.
roster,
Yeah.
then you're gonna look at a trade much more favorably
Yeah.
than someone
Yeah.
that doesn't want to and wants to flip them. Like Tua is another
Exactly.
great example.
Oh yeah. I mean, I finally ended up trading Tua, that one share I had in our
Oh,
Brees League,
yeah,
but
oh,
I
yeah.
never planned to. I mean, like eventually an opportunity came along, and it was a nice surprise. I was able to, add some first and turn them into Josh Allen. But if I was stuck with Tua, like I would have been fine with that. I do think he's underrated in terms of the production he gives you, and I do think the concussion concerns have been a little overstated at this point. But yeah, like I could see acquiring another Tua or acquiring a Tua share in another league at some point if it just makes sense. And yeah, I'll have no expectation of ever trading him away if I acquire a share, but I'll know that going in. And so I think expectations are kind of important in that situation. As long as you know that, hey, like I'm probably never going to get offered what this player's worth. So
Yeah.
if I make
And
this deal for him, I'm just knowing that he's probably like on my roster for a long
you,
time.
you at least can't count on it because there might be a
Yeah.
day where mid-season it
Yeah.
genuinely would not be shocking if Tua is a top three quarterback through the first 2 months because I mean
Sure.
he led the league in passing in 2023.
Mhm.
It's like
Oh
people
yeah.
forget
I
that.
mean,
Like,
it's really not that crazy. I mean, it sounds weird. It's like, wait a minute, Tua? Like, how on earth
yeah,
could you finish top three? But like, in a 6 point passing touchdown league, if like the Dolphins just started hot and he just puts up some random like 5 or 6 touchdown game, which we've seen before from him. Like, it's really not that crazy. Like, weird things like that are going to happen in the
it's
NFL
just always
season.
things like that. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, and in that situation, then maybe you can flip Tua for like, I mean, I don't know if you could get two firsts, but like,
yeah,
even if it's just like a first and a second or a couple
yeah.
seconds or something good.
Well, my favorite thing is just like what other player can you flip them for? Whether it's same position, like generally it's easier to think same position, but
Yeah.
also like cross positions because that's my favorite like argument for just like certain players that
Mhm.
well are projected to do really well versus players that are not projected to do very well. Because if
Mhm.
that player that's not projected to do well isn't doing well, well, that player that was projected to do well and is doing well, like basically, if what we think is good, like should happen from a redraft standpoint happens, the gap
Mhm.
goes like from like this in the off season to like okay,
Yeah.
it's like this now, and sometimes it'll even like cross over depending on what the profiles are, the age,
Right.
and when we're talking about ADPs, they're just the way they are. The prices they just are how they are because the market just decides it, and we just
Yeah.
have to agree or not or
Yep.
disagree. Well, once you're in season, none of that even matters.
Right. Oh,
So
I mean, yeah, it's crazy how much things change once the bullets start flying in season and points are being scored, and you're looking at your win loss record, and you're looking at your matchup next week, and you're trying to figure out, okay, like how do I make the playoffs and have a
yeah.
chance of winning some money and everything, and it changes everyone's mindset so much,
Oh
and
my goodness.
the values change a lot accordingly.
Yeah, I mean was just there was something about it last year. Like I was like, I will not forget this. Like I knew this was gonna happen, but like
Yep.
I will
Yeah.
not forget to the extent of how this changes your mindset, your league mates' mindsets, because especially when you get that stud player, maybe they were cold for a game or two, and then they get hurt on IR. I
Yeah.
mean, their price just tanks like crazy, and then you
Yeah.
have the Chris Godwin of last year tripling in value in a month, and like, what would
Yeah.
you have had to add?
How
Like,
about I was just gonna say, like comparing him to like Rasheed Rice when like
yeah,
Godwin's at his peak last year and Rasheed Rice is like injured,
that could have been a one for one. Like,
major injury. Like Oh, 1 for 1, like easily. I mean, like I wouldn't even be surprised if you're getting like stuff on top of Rice if you're moving Godwin at his peak.
Yeah, yeah. If you hit the right timing, just the right scenario,
Yeah,
of course you need like the Rice owner to need Godwin. Like there's that stuff which you can't predict.
yeah,
But when you get the right scenario like that,
yeah,
yeah, whether you have to add something little or you get something back, just the fact that that was even possible is insane when you think about it now. And that's why I've been building on teams. By the way, this is, before we wrap it up here, we can at least make one last point like me and Jacob were doing.
Oh God, it better not
How
be another hour and a half after this. But go ahead.
we were talking about depth, and yeah, I think depth in season, you don't want to have too many options. I agree. I think the key for me on this depth conversation is I don't want to have like too much invested depth, which is like I don't want to have a really expensive quarterback 3. I don't want to have a really expensive tight end 2 or that I can't play in a flex for some reason.
Right,
Like
sure.
if they can't project in my lineup or they aren't going to be, I don't want them to be real expensive. That's where I want the Calvin Ridleys and the whatever players along those lines. And
Yeah.
so I'm actually fine. Here's the thing: I'm actually kind of fine going into the season with a little bit too much depth from what I might typically want. And here's my
Right.
philosophy. Well, number one, if you hold a little bit more depth, naturally the rest of your league is going to be a little thinner,
Yeah.
especially depending on the context of like you might have 4 tankers in one league, so it might not matter if you're holding on to more depth, 2 extra players. But if everyone's competing and you have 2 extra starting caliber players, that's a
Right.
pretty big impact to a couple people in your league or whatever, right?
That's true.
Across the league. So because I mean that's probably one of the most important things is just like understanding. But if you have this extra depth, okay, maybe you're not actually trading off your depth. You're actually trading something in your starting lineup, say Chris Godwin last year, for an
Yeah.
injured Rasheed Rice, which you might not be able to use the entire year. But you're going from Chris Godwin and saying, okay, I'll make that downgrade to Calvin Ridley or
Yeah.
Juwan Jennings or whoever it is. So instead of like trying to have to ask, like
Yeah.
find a way to trade for it later or
Right. I
go
like
to
that.
that same manager and be like, okay, well now I need this player back, and then it blows
Right.
everything up.
Right.
You've already got the backup plan ready to
Yeah.
insert in your lineup.
I
So
love that.
it might not be a move you're making. So yeah, the whole like trade your depth thing away,
Yeah.
it makes sense, but I don't know. I don't even know how I came up with this.
That's genius. I never thought of it that way, but that's a brilliant way to just kind of set the table for you to take advantage of, like
Yeah.
buying that injured Nico Collins in season or
Yeah.
injured Justin Jefferson or Jamar Chase or Rasheed Rice or whatever. Just have that extra depth built in, and then oh hey, I can afford to lose a hot Chris Godwin because I'm just going to promote.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, Calvin Ridley or Juwan Jennings
Yeah.
or whatever good player you have on your bench already that you didn't need to start the season. So I love that. I mean, did you just think of that now? I mean, like we've never
No,
talked about.
yeah, I thought about this. Like I don't know, probably. Basically, anytime you've been seeing me getting these McCaffreys and like
Okay,
random guys to my bench, these veterans,
right.
that's basically
Yeah.
been my philosophy. Was like, okay, I don't care to like when I've been getting drafting all these guys, especially in these startups. If I've been getting a little
Oh,
bit of
yeah.
depth, like these Hunter Henrys and stuff like that, like
Yeah.
Josh in the break room, and we're getting these Cortland Suttons thrown in and stuff like that. Like at least my philosophy, yeah, I've been I don't know, yeah, I guess I never mentioned that, but like
Yeah.
that has basically just been my philosophy because well, if I already have the solution to what the problem I would
Yeah.
want to create will be, then there's
Right.
no problem even to begin with. And so it's just been thinking ahead because I know I like to do that. I know I like to go target the injured IR player, whether they're out for the season or
Yeah.
it's yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
For
kind
sure.
of why I've. And if you look at my my Dynasty Savvy Listener League
Yeah.
team, that's exactly how it's created because I have 2 firsts in my pocket right now.
Mhm.
I actually did just shut off like the Pickens because I just didn't think he needed to. I didn't even know that deal was still out there, by the way. Matt just like randomly accepted it.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask you about that one, especially when this conversation came up, because it was like, oh yeah, like
Yeah.
that deal surprised me a little, and not that it was a bad deal, and not that I couldn't understand it from a certain perspective of, oh yeah, I could see the advantages of that, like get off a little of the depth, and if you just kind of wanted to insulate some of that value. But yeah, at the same time, it did seem to kind of be, I guess maybe a little bit against your just sort of general philosophy that I have been observing, where it seems like, yeah, you don't seem to mind having a little extra depth. So, yeah,
Yeah, well, I
if
didn't
you're
even think the deal was.
makes more sense now.
Yeah, I didn't think the deal was actually gonna get done. Me and Matt had both said, yeah, like I even said I didn't even really want to give up what I was giving up because he had
Right.
JT
Oh
and
yeah.
I thought
Yeah.
1 for 1 was fair, but I was like,
Right. That's
I'll
right.
I'll offer the Giddens for Slayton thing just to be a reasonable manager and like
Yeah.
you know, but basically when I was looking at my lineup, I already got like I had Ridley and I got Montgomery and then I got these other guys I think I can potentially count on if the cards play right. There's a bunch of guys: Eckler, Keenan Allen, Tyler Higbee, a bunch of handcuffs. I mean, I even have Fields like on the bench.
Yeah,
There
that's a
a bunch.
0.75 tight end premium. So yeah, you,
Yeah,
you might be able to start a Higby early in the season and
yeah.
you get some solid production. So yeah, not that
Bunch
crazy.
of handcuffs like Spears. Yeah, right. So and then Charbonnet. So it's like, okay,
Yeah.
my bench is depth full of depth enough in my opinion. Where and I have a bunch of picks anyways to do
Yeah.
it. That having Montgomery on my bench
Yeah.
in all these other names is enough to do it.
Sure.
Normally my benches don't look exactly like that where I'm like,
Yeah.
got that much to play around to trade a Pickens, but in my mind too, it's like, hey, if I have 2 firsts and this depth still,
Yeah.
okay, now we're talking. I can go buy any player I want that's hurt.
Yeah.
You know,
It definitely gives you a lot of flexibility in season. So yeah, I can see the appeal of that.
yeah. And I didn't even know that deal was gonna get accepted too, though. The answer, like the question
Right.
was that it just randomly got accepted one, and I was like, huh? Like I made a trade. Like I said that 2 weeks ago.
You got to put those timers, those expirations on the
Yeah,
trade
yeah.
offer. But yeah, I think you're fine with that one.
Yeah.
So
I thought it was a pretty lateral move, but it just it was like I don't need to bet on. I just drafted a Pickens too with Matt, like on our own
yeah.
team, so I got some Pickens. It'll be fine.
Yeah,
But
I know you have at least like two other shares, if not more, of Pickens still. So yeah,
yeah,
you're good there.
yeah. But
For
that's
sure.
that's my counter depth
Yeah,
thing where it's fine. The issue where the depth becomes too much is what I would kind of potentially argue for, like, say, a Pickens move. If somehow he disappoints, even though I don't think will, if he does disappoint and then he's not worth a first anymore, you're kicking
yeah,
yourself, and then Calvin Ridley stinks or gets hurt. Like, there's these, you don't want to have too much of these, like, volatile players that
yeah.
maybe you're investing too much in and they can easily disappoint. There
Sure.
is
But
a.
if you are confident that a certain
Yeah.
or a certain player or a few players on your team that you're rostering, if you have a lot of confidence that these players are going to be productive, then you will probably get more waiting until in season when they start scoring points, and then when
Yeah.
you trade them away, you'll get more in return for them. So it makes sense to just hold them into the start of the season, let them produce, like, see these bets out,
Yeah.
and if you're right, then you can sell them for more.
Yeah.
And worst case scenario, if you're wrong, and let's say like one or two of these guys that you were holding that you didn't necessarily need, like, end up disappointing, well, then maybe at that point, it's a good thing that you had some extra depth, because now you can make up for those one or two players disappointing. Because, like, oh yeah, well, it's a good thing I had these other couple players that were good players on my bench that I didn't
Yeah.
need. Now I can make up for the fact that Jennings or Ridley disappointed, because I have James Conner and David Montgomery. They'll just fill in for them in the flex, and now I don't have to go being some desperate manager trying to fill
Yeah.
some void. Everyone knows I, like, really need some flex help now.
Yeah, Zach, I don't know if I've done too great of a job explaining. Yeah, that definitely helps, yeah, explain part of the benefits. But, yeah, I mean, really, if you are, if you have enough depth, yeah, I mean, there's really not too many ways it goes bad unless you just, you get unlucky or you just pick the wrong guys. I mean,
Yeah, if you just make bad bets, have bad player takes, or if you're, like you mentioned a moment ago, if you're just really betting on these guys that maybe you like their upside, but even you acknowledge that these are really volatile assets that could go one way or another. Like, perfect example would be Marvin Mims. Like, a year from now,
yeah,
he could be worth like a first plus, or he could be worth, like, no one even wants to pay a third or a fourth for him. It's just like,
yeah.
nah, the clogger, don't want him. So like,
Yeah.
yeah, if your depth is a lot of like Marvin Mims types, that could be a little dicey. Maybe you're just better off cashing out for like 2/3 right now or something like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, a lot to consider, but I think this has definitely been a interesting discussion about that. And I think if you do it right, it's not a bad idea to have a little too much depth heading into the early part of the season, as long as you're willing to then adjust to what happens.
Yeah.
And if you still find that you have too much, well, then heck, now you can trade it away and get more for it. So
Yeah.
you're still kind of arriving at a similar destination in terms of how much depth is ideal, but you're going to get more for it then,
Yeah.
or a
And
lot of different scenarios.
and let's
But I think we covered that pretty well, though.
yeah, and let's clarify that the depth, at least I don't know, in our mind, it could be completely different things. Like
Yeah.
rather than I mean, really, I don't want too much on my bench. Normally, I want I mean, I would say like two things that I can feel relatively confident like going in the season with. I want to have I don't know, two basically like two close to James Conner level type players, or Tony Pollard would probably a better
Yeah.
name, something like that. If you have Tony Pollard and Calvin Ridley and know that they're on the same team, you got two guys like that on your bench. You're feeling pretty good. They're on different positions. You can backfill, and then there's varying types beyond that. But
Yeah.
I was gonna say one thing is the downside of that is you can lose value by making the wrong bets and stuff like that. Well, you could say that about owning any player. Number one.
Yeah.
Number two, the risk I think gets countered by the fact that okay, as long as it doesn't all go bad for you and everything just crumbles with your depth and all that stuff, well, guess what? The reason you're doing it anyways is to, like, help gain value, and give yourself the opportunity to gain value. So like I think the risk to lose is far less than the risk to gain, because
Mhm.
by having that depth, yeah, you can go buy Nico Collins when he's on IR at a discounted price or whatever. Like it opens up
Right.
those opportunities. So like, don't lose sight of like what,
Yeah.
at least in why I would do that for would be. It's actually to gain value.
Oh yeah, because like if you're making a bet on like Calvin Ridley, who's like on your bench, and then through the first few weeks of the season, he's having like a top 12 season in terms of production. Now all of a sudden you're within striking distance of like up tiering to like a much better receiver for the long term that you otherwise wouldn't have been if you had just cashed out, on Calvin Ridley and like just gotten like a single second for
Yeah.
him. And it's like now you're in season and you're wanting to buy like whoever, like a CD Lamb who's gotten off to a slow start, but you're still obviously a big believer in everything.
Yeah. Or
And
maybe it's
like
Marv or something like that, or
you're nowhere close with a
yeah.
single second. But if you have like a hot Calvin Ridley who's given like top 12 production, like now maybe you can add like a first or two to that to Calvin Ridley, and like you're in striking distance of landing a CD Lamb. Whereas with the second, you're not even close.
The most fun one is it's like Rome, probably more like a Rome than a Marv, but it's like a Rome where it's like, hey, he's already like hitting the borderline, like late first. You still want to like bet in him. His price is getting to a reasonable thing, and now he's hurt. It's like, okay, imagine an injured, unproductive Rome Odunze versus a not even top 12, just say it's a top 16 Calvin Ridley, completely reasonable, because maybe he has a couple spikes early and other receivers are getting hurt and stuff like that. I mean, like, dude, all of a sudden Calvin Ridley's more expensive and whatever. You could flip them.
It's not that crazy. I mean, it sounds crazy now, but it's really not that crazy.
Yeah, so you can all of a sudden you can get a player and you might be like, that's ridiculous. Well, that's completely something like that can happen, whether it's Rome or someone else. And if you think that's ridiculous, you should be taking advantage of that in season when it's happening.
Right.
And by owning these players and having these options. Here's the thing too, what you're saying, up tiering to CD or these injured players, or these better players.
Yeah.
The more options and players you have to pick, like to trade to your CD owner or whoever it is, the better, because they might not just like Calvin Ridley. They might like this other guy, or George Pickens.
They like Pickens, or they like Ricky Pearsall, And so it's like, oh, okay, well, if you like Pearsall, okay, I'll give you Pearsall and, 2 first, and then I'll just keep Ridley and keep using them.
Yeah,
Yeah, so
exactly.
a lot of options.
You might actually not even have to give up like a really productive player. You might actually just end up using the Calvin Ridley if he's having a good
Yeah,
enough season.
sure.
It gives you just more options. And one
Yeah.
thing I ran into, I would say I was able to take advantage of this sort of. It just like I wish I had one better player on my roster because it was a must start three. I had really good depth everywhere but receiver.
Mm.
And then it was like, okay, I had lost Rashid Shaheed. I lost a couple other receivers for the year. So it was like, hey, I had Jefferson. I traded for Nico, but I had to give up. Oh, yeah, I did trade for Nico. Oh, I got him. I had Jefferson Nico,
Mm.
but I had Cooper Kupp as my third receiver, who was projected to be a league winner at the time, coming back from injury. A guy overpaid, the piss for him. Again, Cooper Kupp was supposed to be a league winner at the time.
Yeah.
I couldn't decline it because I knew I'd be
Yeah.
like regretting it right now if I didn't do it.
Ah,
But I didn't have a receiver three that was even like projectable to go in. It was like a
yeah.
Shad Bateman.
And if you had that depth, then it would have been a lot easier to make that move.
Had I had anything,
Yeah.
literally anything, a receiver three, I would have been like instant accept. I
Yeah.
ended up getting really lucky. I got him to throw in Calvin Ridley, and like I kicked him back something not worth Calvin Ridley, and it
Yeah.
was just like
Right.
it was just some stupid manager
Yeah.
basically giving me a freebie. But I would have accepted it and done a backup plan and traded for
Yeah.
one. But that was
Right.
exactly the issue. I don't ever want to be in those situations where
Yeah.
I can't take advantage of an amazing
Right.
trade because my starting lineup's gonna be bad now.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I think that's a great example. And I think we should try to wrap this up
Yeah.
here because it's after midnight here on the East Coast. And yeah, hey, you've been streaming a lot lately.
That's
You
right.
did the 5 hour stream that was like half you solo after I dipped, and then yeah, we had Jacob on, and you guys did another 4 hours. So yeah, we'll give you a break here, but awesome stream. And yeah, I think we put together a fun little best ball team. Did we want to just run down the final roster real quick?
You know what? I think I closed it, and we'll probably
cool.
get off on another tangent. So
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
We will call it a night. But yeah, thank you everyone for watching. Like the stream. We're definitely gonna be doing more of these best ball streams. And yeah, I'm sure we'll get back to Dynasty Goats here sooner or later. That's usually what we do on Sunday nights. And of course, yeah, you can always expect Dynasty and Beers, which I think we're pretty much back to Wednesday nights now, right?
Yeah. I don't know. We'll try to aim for Wednesday. If it doesn't work, then
Wednesday or Thursday. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you again for joining us, and have a good night.